Hey, everyone. Happy almost 4th of July. It's a Sunday evening. I was doing some work. I just I kind of thought I was like, I bet a lot of people are just kind of hanging out, nothing to do because a lot of people aren't going to work tomorrow. And why not do a little late night reaction stream just for funsies? And I happen to have this stream from RAMZPAUL live on Women and Culture that a member of my locals community, Jess, asked me to do a while ago. And I kind of put it on the list and I was like, I got to wait for a time to do it. I'm really glad that Jess is in the chat because she can explain some of the things to us. So she says, hopefully this gives us some context to what Alexander Duggan traditionalist is. This guy is very subtle in using that word, but his viewpoint is analogous to what traditionalists think of women. And then she also says that I want people to know that difference between traditionalism and traditionalism. I think she meant traditionalists. I am not one of the traditionalists. Yeah, just like in and just correct me if I'm wrong. Like you kind of like adhere to like traditional gender roles in your relationship, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it seems like there are just different subcultures online that have different perceptions of what those roles should be, what should be the roles for women. And I think we're going to probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, but probably going to be taking a look at one of the more extreme views tonight. Now, listen, I don't watch RAMZPAUL. I've watched him one time when he made a jackass out of himself reacting to me getting into it with the white identitarians over the CRT as anti-white thing. He didn't know what he was talking about, and I later proved that he was completely wrong, just like I proved Tree of Logic was completely wrong, just like I proved that I Hypocrite was completely wrong. And that's really the only interaction I've had with this guy. I view him as not being a good person. I don't like his energy. It's very low. I did not like watching him when I did the reaction to the reaction video that he made about me. Again, him not understanding what I was talking about because I don't perceive him to be I don't perceive him to be many things, many, many, many things. But I was asked to watch this video by a member of my locals, and I figured, why not? Listen, man, we're kind of all on vacation, aren't we? A little bit. And so I thought we would do that. I've got a couple of beers here. And I've actually made a challenge to myself. I've made a challenge because today on Twitter, of all things, today on Twitter, I learned that apparently now I'm a drug smuggler. This is, I shit you not, the latest lie that the bullying horde is telling about me is that I'm a drug smuggler, which is a little bizarre in and of itself. But you know what? It's like every single week they seem to come up with a new bullshit story about me. And so I'm challenging myself. I've issued a new challenge to myself in the face of the internet insanity that I have to deal with on any given day. And the new challenge I have to myself is I am going to make more content than the entire bullying horde combined, so they can spread their stories about me being a drug smuggler and me being a groomer. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, I'm a groomer, just so you know. Apparently, when I made a joke about sex to a 27-year-old man that has been in the music industry since he was 16 years old and been invited to orgies and has eaten a ton of edibles before getting on a plane and all this stuff, apparently me making a joke about sex was grooming him. And so I'm a groomer and a drug smuggler, according to them, and possibly many other things as well. And so I thought I would challenge myself to make more content than all of them put together, because they have all this time to just invent stories about me. They don't actually do anything productive in the real world. And so I'm on a content making binge. I actually, right before doing this, I filmed the second episode of my new podcast that I'm launching called Watching the West Wing After Taking the Red Pill, in which I'm literally just going to watch every single episode of the West Wing and do commentary on it from a new perspective. I haven't watched the West Wing since I red pilled two and a half years ago. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I've really been kind of avoiding it because I don't want to be disappointed, and I really hope I'm not. But I did launch the first episode of that on my channel today, and I just filmed the second one. And the second one is actually right now being loaded into my locals community because my locals actually get something extra special with this podcast. Here's the first episode in locals. Now, if you're watching this podcast on my channel, and I'm working on getting it on all the major podcasting platforms too, so there's going to be an audio version. It's going to be an Apple, Google, Spotify, all those things. I was working on that today. But there is a video version on my YouTube channel, but my locals supporters get an extra special surprise. They get the unedited version of me watching the show, because the version I'm releasing publicly is edited. I don't want to get no stupid YouTube copyright strike, okay? But I am using the full version in my locals. So if you want that, what you need to do is become a supporter in my locals by heading over to kb.locals.com/support. You can sign up for $5 a month, $50 a year. All of that really helps to support the channel. Yes, Bree is very excited. Bree, listen, I had this idea a while ago to do this podcast, but I think it was you, Bree, who made a comment on my channel the other day that's like, Karlyn, why don't you watch The West Wing? And I was like, you know what? I had this idea a while ago, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's something fun and lighthearted, and it's almost taking us back to a simpler time, isn't it? So Bree, thank you for that gentle nudge that you gave me the other day, and I am working on that. And so you can get the edited versions on my channel and soon in all major podcast providers, but then we have the unedited version for my local supporters as well. Incognito says, Miss K beating the horde with a smile. I love it. Well, they're big shit talkers, aren't they? But they never actually seem to do anything. They never actually seem to make content. They just whine and complain and cry on Twitter all day long and dare me to sue them for defamation, which they may get their wish. The reason I haven't sued them for defamation yet is not because I can't sue them for defamation. It's because I don't want to waste time suing them for defamation, because I think that, mostly I think that they're bullshit, awful human beings, and I don't want to waste time on that. I want to waste time doing things like creating content for you guys. And I got a whole bunch of stuff coming up this week on my main channel. I've actually got 3 great interviews coming up this week. On Wednesday, we're going to have Magister Bill M on, and he is a priest in the Church of Satan. And he's going to talk to us about what the Church of Satan is. I'm actually really fascinated to find out. And I'm not saying this from like a gotcha perspective. I'm actually genuinely fascinated about what this is from someone who has been involved in this. Bill hosts the longest running Satan podcast like on the internet. And that's just really interesting to me. So we're going to have him on to talk about that. On Thursday, we're going to have Dennis Pratt is coming back. And Dennis is bringing a whole long list of people. Dennis is bringing a bunch of people who were involved in PorkFest in different ways, and we are going to do a PorkFest recap on Thursday. And then on Friday, on my main channel, of course, Friday we do happy hour on my second channel, and we're still going to do that because I'm going to create more content than any single person on the internet. But on Friday at 2 p.m., because we have to go based on Joshua time, Joshua is going to come on the channel for an interview about what it's like to be a psychic. We're not going to have him psychic stuff. This is not nothing remotely controversial. We're still going to do nothing remotely controversial on Tuesday, but Joshua's going to be on the channel on Friday, and we're going to talk about his psychic development, how does one become a professional psychic? Like, I think that's an interesting question. What is it like for Joshua to psychic things? What was the process by which he developed his gifts and all of that? And I don't know if you guys know this. He doesn't really talk about it. Joshua is both empathic, so he feels, but he's also clairaudient. So Joshua actually hears voices in his head from beyond. He has spirit guides that talk to him and give him helpful information. And I want to know what that's like, because my clairaudience turns on every once in a while. It kind of sounds like a radio that's like you're skimming through the channels, but I don't have it like Joshua does. And so I want to learn more about that. And those are just a couple of the great conversations that we're going to have next week on the channel. Bree says, I love West Wing so much that I write a West Wing fanfic story. I understand the feeling, Bree. I understand. Like, Bree, in that last season, that episode where Josh and Donna finally hooked up, like, I have seen that episode 8 billion times. I remember watching it for the first time and be like, yes, 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 yeah, finally. So I completely understand. All right, guys, please mount that like button for me. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And I'm gonna, when I'm displaying this on the screen. I hope you guys don't mind, but I want to have the chat displayed because I often find that some of the most interesting things from these types of streams with this type of audience actually happens in the chat. So I know it's a little bit harder for some of you to see, but I want to have the chat displayed where I can see it, cuz I want to see what people are saying and how they're reacting to this content, because again, I suspect this content is going to be like uber traditionalist, which is something that I don't subscribe to at all. And I actually think that one of the most interesting parts is not just the content itself that's being presented, but the reaction to the content and seeing how people respond. And do they question it? Do they just buy into it fully? What do they say? So that's why I'm going to leave the chat on the screen, because I want to be able to see that as well. I know it's harder to see on some screens. And so if there's anything interesting going on in the chat that I see, I will definitely let you guys know what I see. Mike has got a whiskey in hand. I don't have a whiskey, Mike, but I do have some beer. I do have that. I have a couple of different varieties. Let me show you what I have tonight. I think I've had all these before. So I have this is actually a freaking, hang on. We're going to do beer time. It's 4th of July weekend. If you're not drinking beer on 4th of July weekend, like, what are you doing? Come on. It's 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Most of you have the day off tomorrow, whatever. I did promise my haters on the internet that I was going to do a boat ton of edibles today. I have not yet. I do actually, hang on. I do actually have edibles. They're sitting right here. Maybe, oh no, my screen turned off. Oh no, there it goes. It's back. The edibles turned off my screen. I do actually have edibles. Maybe I will do edibles before the end of the stream, but probably not, because they wouldn't kick in time. It takes like an hour for those things to even kick in. Anyway, we're going to have some beer. And the first beer I have is a red velvet cake pastry stout. This is an amazing beer. It's really effing good, but it's also, I think this is like a big beer. I want to say this is like 9 or 10%. So I want to make sure I'm not drinking my big beer. Yeah, this is 10.5%. So we're not drinking that first. I'll tell you that. The next beer I have, and those of you who watch my channel regularly, you know that like I'm a big fan of craft beer and I like explaining these things to people. I have Whoop, there it is. This is a whoopie pie stout, and this is also 10%. So we can't start with that one because that's going to be too much. And then, oh God, they're all big beers. I didn't look closely. I have a cinnamon toast beer. Cinnamon toast, an imperial stout brewed with Vietnamese cinnamon and vanilla. And this is only 8%. Still a little bit bigger than normal. But this is the beer I'm going to start enjoying for tonight before we start the stream, because God knows I think I'm probably going to need it. But let's pour this. Oh, doesn't that look thick and juicy and good? You always know it's going to have like coffee in it when the head looks like that, the foam looks like that. Has that kind of like off-white tint to it. Oh, I love a good stout. Stouts are my favorite. All right, guys, let's get this party started. Let's learn, according to this guy, what he thinks the traditional roles are for women. And the description, all this says is, what should be the role of women in politics and culture? Well, I'm fascinated to find out. Let's see.
Hey guys, welcome to RAMZPAUL Live. It's been a while since I've done one of these interviews, and I was excited to do this one. I want to introduce you to Friends of Aquinas. That's the name of his YouTube channel, and his name is Thomas. He's from the Russian heritage, but he lives in the UK. Did I get that right, Thomas?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And how I met Thomas is I have a Patreon, which I encourage you guys all to join. And as part of the Patreon, twice a week on Friday nights and Sunday afternoons, we have a roundtable. And some people, just show up maybe once a month, but then we have regulars, and Thomas is definitely a regular contributor, and he's really fascinating. And I was honored when he kicked off his YouTube channel. I was the first person he's interviewed, and he's also interviewed people like Z-Man and so forth. And one of the things I found interesting is
Gotta get my knitting.
European, and that gives a different perspective. but he's also quite young. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, Thomas?
23. So
23.
just the same age, the same year as Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Wow. Okay, so 23 years old. I'm sorry. Like at 23 years old, you don't get an effing opinion. And that might sound harsh. It might, I mean, well, you can have an opinion, but I have even more cause to say your opinion is probably stupid at 23 years old. And the reason I say that is the brain at 23 years old is not fully developed, so you don't even have the full logic, reason, function of your brain. So that's number one reason why you don't get an opinion. Number two is that you don't have any effing life experience. Listen, I thought I knew everything in the world at 23 as well. Just like John Doyle thinks that he knows everything in the world. I thought I knew everything in the world. I'm sure like Hunter Avalon thinks he knows everything in the world. Like you don't. I'm sorry. Like breaking news. You do not. You know next to nothing at 23 years old. I understand why that might be hard to understand now, but you know what? RAMZPAUL should damn well know that. Of all people, RAMZPAUL is old enough to understand how little 23-year-olds know. And so I'm not taking any life advice from a 23-year-old. I'm sorry. Like, even if you get it right, I'm not going to take, it's like, come on. Like, dude, like if you get it right, it's like a broken clock being right twice a day sort of situation. And this isn't a knock on anyone who's younger. We're all younger at some point. But when you get older, you learn just how little you knew at 23. Trust me on this.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that and America First Fuentes and I guess the Groiper a little bit. But I should do a disclaimer, and Thomas is always quick to say he's not part of that movement. I think you call yourself like adjacent, right? Because you're
That's
not
right.
an American, number one. So it's kind of hard to be an American first if you're, I guess, British or you're British, right? Or Russian?
Well, yeah, I would say I'm more Russian than I am British, and
He's got a weird
actually,
accent.
we can speak about that, about kind of the difficulties with identity these days, with with all the ways of migration. A lot of Eastern Europeans coming to Europe, and with the Soviet Union.
Yeah, Melissa, but can you admit, like, you can have kids at 23, but can you admit that you probably didn't know as much about life as you do now? Come on, Melissa. Come on. You didn't know anything about life at 23, Melissa. Come on. You know it's true. I know it's true too. There's no shade. I'm sure you were a wonderful mom at 23. You probably knew more than most people because at least you owned a home. I really think that most people should have to like wait to make any major life decisions until they own a house. I actually think people should have to own a house before they get married. You will spend so much less money on your wedding if you own a home before you get married. Trust me, you're not going to be dreaming about that big fancy wedding when you need to like put a new kitchen in your home. You have your priorities get straightened out.
Union breaking down. All the historical people have moved as a result of these kind of geopolitical disasters. So it's kind of a tangle wire. I would say that I'm mostly Russian, although the biggest protest that one would wage against me being Russian is that I'm Catholic. So that is one of the strange paradoxes. Yeah, that's basically a result of the falling apart of the Soviet Union and probably my familial particularity, shall we say. But yeah, I went to a Russian school, to a Russian primary school, a Russian nursery, primary school, secondary school, and it's only for the later years of secondary school and then for university that I came to the United Kingdom. So
I'm always amazed at someone that grew up in a foreign land, and with a foreign tongue, and then they end up with not having an accent. I mean, you have a British accent. How did that happen? Did you learn English at an early age?
yeah, so it's quite interesting. Well, first of all, my background is mathematics. I went to university and I
Ugh,
finished with a maths
I
degree.
hate his
But I
accent.
think that was kind of a
That's
very
not a knock
practical
against
choice
him. I
that I
just don't
made. I
like
mean,
it.
I was good at it always, but
When I have a ridiculous man in the UK claiming I'm a groomer and a drug smuggler that has exactly the same accent as this guy, I'm just gonna have some feelings. All right, I'm just gonna have some feelings about that. It's nothing against him. He hasn't said anything wrong yet. I'm just saying that his accent is triggering me, and it's not through the fault of anything he has said or done. But I might be a little bit more uppity than I perhaps, than perhaps normal.
I think if I really wanted to, go to university and I just ignored all the practical consequences, I'd probably study something like history or linguistics or literature or something along those lines. I think I have some traces of a linguistic talent. I can kind of grasp languages very easily, and sounds kind of, foreign sounds kind of come naturally to me. So I think that's just, my particularities there. But also since my very childhood, we didn't have any TV but English TV. And basically what I used to watch was Discovery channels, like, and adjacent channels to those, like Animal Planet and Discovery, and they're all in English, so I was kind of forced to. Also, I grew up in the Baltic states, right? And so in Lithuania. And so we had cinema. It was also all in English. We at best of times we had subtitles, and probably on top of that, in kind of our friendship group, in kind of our little I don't know, cabal of families that spoke with each other and were very close, and kind of sent their
Alex, what
their
about
kids to the
him
same
is
schools. It
giving
was
you
very,
SJW vibes?
kind of
I don't get SJW vibes.
prestigious
I
to
get
know
like
English, so we're kind of always forced to pay
very
particular attention to
constricted,
English in school. So that's
like
how I would say that my kind of knowledge on the
like
English language
alt-rightish
and
vibes.
Anglo
Alt-rightish
culture has
vibes is
evolved.
what I get.
And you describe yourself as a traditionalist? Is that your kind of political leaning?
If I had to, just like put a label, and it's kind of sad really that we have to do all this labeling stuff, but I guess in an age of TikTok culture, or 20-second clips and one sentence descriptions, I guess you have to put up labels, and yeah, I'd guess I'm a traditionalist, and that would probably, if I said I was a traditionalist, it would probably you'd probably come up with the right associations. So I don't think that necessarily misrepresents me. I think that's a very good way of putting it.
And I find it interesting. And one of the things we wanted to talk about is women. And I'm 50.
Yeah, I just want to point out Morgan's chat here. I wish people could appreciate tradition without trying to force other people to live the same way. I don't have any problem with people who choose to engage in these types of lifestyles. Like I said, like Jess has a very traditional, like she adheres to like traditional gender roles in her relationship. I say more power to her. If it works for you and you're happy, like who the hell cares? My problem comes when people try to force anyone else to live the way that they live as a way to validate the way that they see the world. And so it's like people really got to learn that freedom means the freedom for other people to do things that you would not do and live in ways that you would not choose. And people have to figure out what works best for them. And what is going to work for me and my husband is probably not going to work for Jess and her soon to be husband. It's probably not going to work for Morgan. It's probably not going to work for Al. It's probably not going to work. It's just like the way it is. Like different people have different needs. They have different roles that they're playing in life. They have different things they're here to learn, different things they want to achieve. It's like there is no one size fits all solution that works for everyone.
58 years old, so I've been through kind of a couple of cycles with this. When I was a kid, that's when they had what they called the women's liberation movement, women's lib, feminism, and all that type of stuff. And you started to see this more and more.
Yeah, Jess says, traditionalists do not think women should have any choice. I am a trad thought to those. What is a thought? I don't know what that word means. I see that word everywhere. I don't know what it means, but Jess apparently is not traditionalist enough for these people. She's like a heretic. Is that what that means? Like a heretic, kind of?
And by the time I was in university, it was quite indoctrinated. And then it got crazier and crazier. And now it seems like on the right, especially with a lot of young people, is almost gone into the opposite direction, especially with young men. And I was thinking, like the American First crowd, and
like
Nicholas Fuentes.
slut.
And it's almost like they almost have a
That makes
I don't know if I
sense.
want to say anti-women, but it's almost like
That
it
hoe over
borders
there.
on that
I
some way.
see. Not
So
heretic
is
at
that
all.
all just a
Not heretic at
reaction to
all.
feminism, or is that something
That's
more
not.
deeper seated?
See, you learn something new every
Well,
day.
I
I
mean,
had no idea.
I don't know if you can call a reaction to a reaction.
Thank you for
I don't know
educating
if
me,
you can call a
guys.
reactionary
Thank you for educating
a
me.
movement that is a reaction to a reaction. You know what I mean? It's kind of strange how a lot throughout history, for lots of reasons, and mostly biological, that later developed into social and political structures, that we had women occupy certain positions, certainly politically and certainly socially. And then, the 20th century came about, and the late 19th century came about, industrialization, world wars, technology, and so on and so forth, which has upset the natural moral order and natural societal order, and so on and so forth. So I suppose, in a sense, you can call that attitude reactionary. Yes, it is a reaction to the modern outlook on women, and certainly, feminism in general.
And what do you see the role of women in, let's say, right-wing movements or traditional movements? Should they have a voice or not?
Well, that's the thing. That's the interesting part about this discussion, is that we unfortunately have fallen prey to an issue of the framework, and that goes way beyond even women, where we, as conservatives, as those who nominally uh, oppose ourselves to this liberal gay order, we oppose it, but at the same
Liberal
time we
gay
accept
order.
all of the framework. We accept the basic, moral ideological principles that the left and Marxists and all these revolutionaries are putting forward. And one of those is that basically, in order to be of any importance, in order to have any consequence in your life, you have to travel through these basically masculine tunnels of power, right? You have to climb the masculine, the male political structure to have any importance in life. That's it. That's, if you get to the CEO, that means you're important. But if you raise a child, that means that it's not important, right? So we are framed. We have been this kind of industrially framed, shall we say, where because you're not allowing women to have great economic industrial output, therefore you do not value them, therefore they shouldn't have a voice, and so on and so forth. But the way we would see this, for example, I would see this as a traditionalist, is that women ultimately have a voice in political and social structures in which they are not officially a part of, and it has been that way for a long time, where obviously the woman has influence and some amount of control over the man, even though he is above her in the hierarchy within the family. He is above her within societal and political hierarchies. She's still
Okay. So apparently the man is above the woman, not only in the hierarchy of the family, but also in society and political hierarchies. Okay. I don't agree with that, but let's keep going. Yeah. Ladies, you have a voice through your man. That's it. Yes, 23-year-old. Tell me more. Tell me more.
still has pressures that she can exert upon him to get her way. And so effectively what you have is men ruling, men being a part of this social and political structure, but women kind of influencing it behind the scenes. And we can see that historically. We can see that has happened historically, that women did have impact on political decisions just through their husbands. And we saw that through the voting processes of earlier centuries as well. So really voting as one family unit rather than voting as one man, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
God, no, it doesn't make a lot of sense. God forbid a woman is allowed to have her own opinion, which might be different than the opinion of her husband. God forbid.
I did a video about that years ago about the 19th Amendment. And the 19th Amendment, in case people aren't familiar, outside the United States or in the United States, it allowed women to vote. women's suffrage. It's kind of funny now because some troll was out there doing a petition. Hey, sign here if you want to end women's suffrage, and all these women and guys. Oh yeah, of course we want to end women's suffering. Like people, you could get them to sign a petition for anything. It's kind of funny, but I wanted to see the arguments against, the 19th Amendment, and I actually did read some old documents from the period. And as a woman that actually wrote it, and she said the exact same thing you did, that it's one household. If a man and a woman can both vote, you could have a divided household. And when the household vote,
A woman can actually make a choice to engage in that type of relationship if she wants to. If a woman makes a choice to engage in a relationship with a man and she says, honey, you are the head of the household, you're going to cast the vote for both of us, that is actually a choice that women can make if they want to voluntarily be a part of this type of relationship. No one is preventing anyone from doing that. No one is preventing that type of arrangement from taking place. If that's the type of thing you want, go for it, dude. Who really cares? But that should not be forced on the rest of us.
the man voted for the whole family. And she said it was obvious that women had a lot of influence over their husbands. They always have. And so it wasn't really splitting the vote. And so that kind of made a little bit of sense to me how that worked. And now, but you bring up the whole family.
You know who I'm gonna bet are the men who are attracted to this type of arrangement? They're the men's that were like the nerds in school, always bullied, never had any power, probably have very low locus of control, probably have very low self-worth. But you know where they're gonna find that self-worth? By exerting themselves over the little woman in their household that is going to look up to them like the god that they obviously are and let them have decision-making power over everything. I bet that would be a very appealing thing. And that's different, I think, than people choosing voluntarily to like just adhere to like traditional gender roles in their home. I think this is a different thing. It really seems to me like a very much like, I am the head of the house, I will control. I don't think that that's a good idea.
Issue. How important do you see the family and marriage and that type of thing? Because
It's not as though voting takes an extraordinary amount of time. It's not as though voting is going to be a distraction from like child rearing or anything else.
again, and this is, maybe I'm older, I don't really quite understand this, and some of this is couched in irony, and I get it, but there's this whole thing of like, yeah, we're incels, and we don't want women, and having sex with women is gay. I know they're probably saying that kind of cheap.
No.
Isn't it a traditionalist position for men and women to marry and to have children? For most people, I know there's some people like the Apostle Paul, or if you're a priest or something, maybe your calling is elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that the norm to get together? So, like, the woman is not the enemy. She kind of completes us as a man. And we have a family.
This is actually a key question. This is kind of the most important question you ask. How important is the family generally? And it is the issue. I'm sorry, but the WQ, and which is, pretty much, you can equate that to the family question, is more important than the Jewish question. It's more important than...
You know what I should do with these late night streams? If I start doing like late night reaction streams on a regular basis, I should call them knitting nights or like knit nights. And I should set up a camera where like we have an angle like right up here or something where you guys can actually like see me knitting at the same time as we're doing a reaction. I don't know. That could be a fun idea. Let me know if that's a crazy idea or if that's something you would actually watch. I don't know.
Than racial questions. And I'm being serious here.
Knitting and reacting to like right-wing extremist content on YouTube. That could be fun. Or left-wing extremist content for that matter. I'll watch any extremist content from either side and knit, and we can call it knit nights.
It's more important than any question, because effectively how we structure family, how we structure it really is the same as how we structure society. And I think it has been really, really clear, historically speaking, in these when we had strong hierarchy within the family, when the woman was below the man, when the man was head of the household, we had, equally as let's say, rigid structures socially. I really think that effectively what you have is a society at large, a nation, is just a big family, right? And it kind of has a similar hierarchy of a collection of or aristocratic or powerful men at the top as the father of the society, right? And it kind of broadly serves as a mirror of all the, of each of the smaller actual families that make up the whole society. And that is also because obviously all of the people of a nation, or the
Now, I
vast
just want to
majority
point
of
out
them,
in the chat. I just want to point out in the chat. The J's control the J controls the W. The J controls the W. The J pits W against the M. So we can already see the type of character that RAMZPAUL attracts into his audience. And I always think this, again, was why I like to have the chat displayed on the screen. I think it is very telling the type of audience that a creator attracts, who is welcome in their crew and who is not welcome in their crew. That's why I block liberally on this channel whenever we have assholes come around, because like if you don't, you get people saying thing like the J controls the W, the J pits the W against the M, and I think we can all guess what J stands for. I'm just saying. Watching Nitwit. Oh my God, Sam. Sam. Oh my God. Hang on. I need to take a screenshot of that. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. What a great idea, Sam. Thank you.
would have also been related by blood. So what I'm really trying to say here is that it is a very, very, very important question. And as we saw during the 20th century, as women were quote unquote liberated, so has the hierarchy flattened. So have social structures disappeared and crumbled and so on. So in terms of the whole incel thing, this is really overblown and misrepresented, I feel. So you see nowadays that even a lot of the conservatives, I feel, are guilty here when they have this overly chivalristic, almost worshipping attitudes toward women. Kind of lay my coat over a puddle kind of deal, milady, and so on and so forth. What they are missing, of course, is that attitude can only, that protective attitude can only work in a society where the woman is subservient to the man, where there is structural rigidity, because otherwise it upsets the kind of the balance. That balance.
Wait, so men can't be nice to women unless women see themselves as subservient to the man? Is that what I'm hearing? Men can't like open doors or like, take care of stuff without the woman being subservient? That doesn't seem right. Like, why can't men just be nice to women? And, women can just be nice to men too. It can be a two-way street. But, I mean, this is almost sad because like, I really think like the woke left have killed chivalry. Like the feminists have they've killed off chivalry. And it's like the right's trying to do, the alt-right is trying to do the same thing. Why does everyone hate chivalry? Chivalry's nice. Men feel good, it makes women feel good. Like what
of protection and power. It upsets that balance. And what I would say to the whole incel thing is, and obviously I can't represent, the traditional movement if that even exists, and I can't really represent the Groypers, as you've said. I'm a Groyper adjacent, but my view on this
Groyper adjacent
is that men in kind of trying to LARP as these chivalrists of the 1950s or whatever, they are putting too much importance on actually finding a woman and starting a family before they sort out their own lives effectively. And that, just trying to basically find as much sex as they can, to fulfill their primal urges. And that, I think, kind of serves as a veil for all of that. I think a lot of them are just horny, and all they want, and they're saying, oh, but women are these beautiful creatures that we need to worship, and that's why I want to marry. I want to really find a woman. A lot of them are just is just coping basically with the fact that they're horny and they just want a woman. But what they really should be doing is actually utilizing the talents and developing the talents that God has given them, right? The goal shouldn't be to find a woman and become a rug for her. The goal of the man has to be to become a priest or a mathematician
What?
or an engineer or a leader of some sort, to actually develop yourself. And
Listen, there is nothing wrong with wanting to have sex. Men hit their sexual peak very early. It's kind of a very sad thing, isn't it? But like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to just like have sex. And like, who really cares? Like, why do people want to put like, I don't understand why society, or at least like the right, is, well, it's kind of like a backlash too. Like the left is like way crazy, like liberal when it comes to sex. On the other hand, the right backlashes against it, and they're like, no, you should want to do other things instead and stay pure and like all this stuff. And it's like, dude, there's a happy medium between the two. And if you repress sexual urges, that is going to manifest itself in all sorts of really weird ways. Repressing sexual urges is a really bad idea. It can make you a mean person. It can make you a bitter person. It can make you an angry person. It can make you a really it just leads to all sorts of bad ideas. Now, it's not like, maybe sex isn't always available to you the minute that you want it, but repressing that for the sake of like adhering to some traditionalist framework, it's going to it's going to end badly. It always does, every single time.
and develop your society, and the woman will come later, basically, if that makes sense. So in short, men are trying to fulfill their natural urges, and basically that plays into the whole sexual liberation that has happened as a result of feminism. Whereas
Hang
really,
on, Dragon Water. Why do I give unsolicited advice? A, this is my channel. B, I'll talk about whatever I want to. C, people can take my advice or leave it. I don't really care. D, I just gave really good advice. That was really good effing advice. If you don't want to hear my opinion, and Dragon Water, I know maybe you're in a mood or something, because I know this is not true, but like, if people don't want to hear my opinion, they don't have to watch my channel. The end. If you're coming on my channel to watch me, it is not unsolicited. I'm the only person on the stream right now other than these two jokers. Bree says, since you're a Josh and Donna fan, I'll find some good fanfic stories for you if you want. My story will also have I am a big Josh and Donna fan. The only thing that turns me off from that right now is like the guy who played Josh in real life is such like a raging progressive that he's like ruining Josh for me. Every single time I see his tweets, he ruins the character of Josh for me. Melissa says, are these guys part of some religious cult, or is this purely political? They're repulsive. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Melissa. Maybe other people in the chat do. I don't know. Like, I don't know anything about this RAMZPAUL character other than, like, there are some people in my locals that have watched his content, but I really don't know anything about him. So maybe Jess, I know you used to watch his content. Maybe you still do. I don't know. And it's cool if you do. I don't really care. But if you can tell us something about them, that would be really helpful. And then George says, and you can also hear it without listening to it. I don't know what that means, George. I don't know what that's in reference to. Jess says, these people are fake religious. So it's like feigned. It's political. It is an alternative to globalism. So it's like their belief system becomes religious. Dragon Water, anyone is entitled to give advice about whatever they want to. Like, just because I don't care what the right and left does. That is not my business. Well, it is my business because I stick my nose in it all the time. But like, if I want to give advice about sex, I will give advice about sex. I have many sage lessons that I can give on that topic, and many others as well. Okay, let's keep going.
what they should be doing is, instead of indulging in that, is developing themselves and their careers and their talents, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I always recommend for young men,
Although I don't want anyone to say that I'm grooming them by joking about sex and talking about it. I don't want to spread any rumors that I'm a groomer just because I once made a joke to a 27-year-old about sex and then he freaked the fuck out on the internet for 8 months afterwards.
especially, you should have, before you focus on a woman, you should focus on your own life. And if
That's
you focus
true.
on your life and you become successful.
Okay, I'm going to throw them a bone. That's actually true. Before you get into a relationship, you should focus on your own stuff, especially if it's a serious relationship. Don't get into a relationship to solve your problems. That is a really bad idea.
you will draw women like, a light draws moths.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how it works. Whereas if you're always chasing women, it tends not to work very well. I've noticed that in my own life through the years. It's when you're kind of desperate, you get the wrong result. And I kind of want to touch a little bit on how technology has exacerbated the issue. It's been quite interesting with social media, and we almost have this phenomenon with men now. They either what we call the new term simp, which is kind of a vulgar term originally, but if you guys don't know what that means, that's like white knighting. That's like sending a woman you really don't know a lot of money and hope to win her affections or her attention. But then there's also people that have the other reaction, that they almost like hate women. And I think the two are sort of related. I think when men, they put a woman unrealistically up on a pedestal, and then they start to shower them with gifts. They'll say they're young and they're pretty, and then they don't get any attention back. They feel like they've been taken advantage of. And this is why you have this weird love hate of what we call like e-thoughts, where these girls, they're young, they're pretty, they show their breasts, they get all this money for doing nothing, where a guy can't do that. A guy has to go out and work. And again, this isn't all women. I don't want to say most women can do this, but
they're not doing nothing. Listen, man, anytime that someone is making money doing something, it's because they are providing value to someone else. They are giving them a piece of value. They are getting value in return. You don't make money when you're not providing value in some way. So don't say they aren't doing anything. Maybe what they're doing isn't hard, but Elon Musk makes millions and millions and millions of dollars a day. Millions of dollars a day just by offering his opinion. You don't have to work hard in order to make a lot of money. You just have to provide people with something that they perceive to be valuable. So don't tell me those women aren't doing anything, because of course they are. They wouldn't be making money if they weren't. Now, do I think taking your clothes off on the internet is the best way to make money? No. But it's not like they're not doing nothing. And it's not like they're taking advantage of the men. The men are willingly giving them their money. No one is forcing them to do anything. Like, did they like trip and put their credit card into the computer and send them like a super chat or whatever? No. It is a voluntary relationship.
But there's that sort of attention there that I don't know, it didn't exist so much on a large scale, just because you really didn't have the technology to do that. You may have your little town, but people knew you. And I think there was a little bit more of the family dynamics that checked that behavior. What are your thoughts on how social media or the internet has really changed, or is in its many ways, I think, appealed to our worst natures?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. Ultimately speaking, I think it removed many of the constraints that
Mhm.
were put upon this kind of sexual men and women relationship, where in the past, as you've said, the vast majority of people, or a lot of people, and I'm talking about the past, would have lived in a relatively small community where everyone knew each other. So that's one. Whereas everyone, the anonymous culture on the internet really prohibits that. It kind of creates this kind of huge world of anonymous people that really can escape social pressures and so on and so forth, right, on the internet.
Mhm.
Secondly, well, in the past, pretty much in all societies, you had brothels, right? So you had sexual deviancy in it. Well, if you want to call it that, it's kind of sex outside of marriage and debauchery and all of that stuff. You had that, but
Sex outside of marriage is considered indecency? All right. Listen, man, you do whatever you want, but if you get married to someone without having sex with them, I think that is a fundamental it could just lead to so many problems. I'm sorry. It really can. If you get married to someone and you have never had sex with them, and then on the wedding night you find out you have no sexual chemistry whatsoever, or the sex is just really horrifically bad, as it probably would be if you ended up like marrying someone you've never had sex with, that can create a lot of problems. Like, who knows? It could work out great too. Maybe the sex is amazing. Okay, good for you. But like, that's actually a really big problem. Has anyone ever been in a relationship? I know I have, where like you really like the person, you really care about the person, you have a lot of fun together, but the sex is awful. And yeah, you should probably be able to talk about that if you're having sex, but it's also just a really sensitive subject to broach. It creates so many, you have to make sure you have chemistry with someone. The reason he downplayed what those women do is he said right before that men can't do that. Men can do that. That's a lie though. Men can do that. Is the thing. It's like, you know what? If like a really like beefy guy wants to play video games like with his shirt off and like whatever, I mean, I'm sure women would pay for that. I bet they could. Or the men can find different easy ways to make money. I'm like, I'm not taking off my clothes and I seem to be making money on this stream. It's not like it's impossible. Like, I'm not one of those chicks that can do that stuff. George says basic capitalism, while there's a demand for it, there'll be a supply. What I said earlier was about people listening to your advice. Ah, I see, George. Thank you for the clarification.
In order to check that, you had social expectations and social structures. So the way I see it is that the technology is not so much the problem. It has just helped to exacerbate
Gay men
the
would pay for that.
problem,
Hang
which
on.
is the
Straight men could make a boat. Well, I mean, gay men too. Men could make a boat ton of money trying to appeal to gay men. If you really just want to get paid for taking your clothes off on the internet, gay men have more disposable income than like any other group on the planet. So you might be a straight guy and you might have to like get over your feelings about being like primarily targeting gay men, but guess what? Like, straight men do gay porn for pay like all the time. If you're convinced like women have it so much easier because they can take their clothes off on the internet and make money, men can do that too. They just have to get over the fact that they're going to be targeting a certain audience. And I'll tell you what, it's not like women really like men who only simp for women on the internet. That's not something that's really attractive to a lot of women. And so like those women are giving up something as well. So it's not like a perfect situation there either. Now again, I'm not suggesting that I'm suggesting these things as career choices. I'm not. I don't think it's a good idea. I think if you want to make money streaming on the internet, do something that's actually useful. Talk about politics, talk about the world, talk about life, like talk about things that are interesting, like become intelligent about different areas, like read up on different areas, have interesting discussions with interesting people. I mean, you can make money just having interesting discussions with people. People do that all the time. And it's a much better use of your time, I think, than taking your clothes off. But if you really just want to take your clothes off to make money, you can find an audience for that if you're a woman, and you can find an audience for that if you're a man. It may not be people you want to have sex with, but guess what? You don't have to, because all you're doing is taking off your clothes to make money on the internet. No one's requiring you to have physical contact.
the lack of social constraints. The e-thoughts are so widespread. Not because the internet allows them to be widespread. It may do, and it may serve that function, but ultimately because society rewards that behavior. It doesn't inhibit that behavior in any way. I mean, this is viewed upon by society as a real, genuine, fulfilling profession or a place for a woman. That's just how it is. And when I talk about society, what you really need to understand is that the vast majority of people will comply with the status quo. What I'm really talking about, the decision makers.
So, okay, a little off color, but Kim says, I'm a straight chick who loves gay male porn. Fun fact, and I don't know why I know this information, but I do. 30% of people who consume gay porn are women. That's true. Women are consumers of gay porn. So if you, as a guy, want to take your clothes off on the internet to make money, there are men and there are women who will watch you do that. And I think the reason that women consume like gay porn is because it's just so much cleaner than straight. It really is. Like the people involved I feel like gay male porn is like so much more honest. It's so much cleaner. It's like so many women in porn are just like dirty and gross. Truly, they're dirty and gross. And so don't tell people that they can't make money doing something. Anyone can make money. Yeah, talk about politics naked. Why isn't there like a really good looking guy that just talks about politics naked? He would make a ton of money. Please.
Within the society are the aristocracy, the ruling elite, the ruling class, the upper classes, and so on, who actually have the capital, have the power to make their voices heard, to influence decision making, to influence institutions, and so on. And so in this post-revolutionary world where the revolutionaries are in charge, that have upset the norms of morality, the structures have totally fallen apart. And now that we don't have any of those traditional social expectations, well, the internet just lets that run rampant, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Who's to blame for that, the women or the men? Because you could make the argument the men that fund that actually enabled that behavior. And that's why I really, really hate it to see when men like join an OnlyFans or something like that. It's sad in a way because I've not lived like.
Wait, listen. Wouldn't presidential debates be so much more revealing if everyone was naked? This chat has gone in a way different direction than I thought it was going to go. I'm going to admit that. But like, wouldn't that be so much more revealing? It's kind of like how like in like the Miss Universe pageants, they have like the swimsuit category, and that's supposed to be more about like presenting yourself with confidence than it is necessarily about like how you look in a swimsuit, but it's about how you carry yourself in a swimsuit. Wouldn't like a naked presidential debate be so revealing about who people really and truly are? Okay, a little gross and cringe, but oh god, this is gonna go downhill. This is why we don't do late night reaction streams right here, where it's like super like red light reaction stream is what's going on right now.
Like a perfect life. So I'm not saying this, but I've never joined an OnlyFans. I don't think I ever would.
No.
Because to me, that seems is worse than pornography. It's like having a pretend relationship. Because my understanding how OnlyFans works is like there's a girl, she shows off her naked body to you in exchange for money. And then she also pretends to like you as a
Melissa, exactly. Has this guy never seen how women react at a strip show? Women, listen, ladies, if you have never been to like a Chippendales strip show or like something that goes on in Vegas or sometimes like they tour around, women lose their minds. It is the most entertaining thing in the world. Like part of the entertainment at going to see like male strippers is not actually the strippers. It's watching how women react around the strippers. They lose their mind. So don't tell me men can't make money taking their clothes off. Of course they can. Dragonwater, do you really want to see Hillary Clinton or Nancy in the buff? No, not at all. Not in any way. I'm just saying that it would be revealing of their true character. That's all. Hell on Wheels says, I feel like people like this are mad because all they see is women's appearance and they're mad they can't basically own a woman. I agree with you, Hell on Wheels. I think that this is all, it's like we're seeing all of their internal securities get projected out and they create entire like philosophical ways to live life based on the fact that they don't feel like they have the self-confidence to go get a woman on their own. I agree.
a person, but she really doesn't. She just wants money out of you. And to me, that is even more pathetic than just straight pornography. And men that do that, I tell them, don't do that. Don't do that. This is going to lead you down a really dark hole. And it's not going to give you any happiness or fulfillment. And so is that really a male issue or a female issue or both? How would you say this problem? Who's responsible?
It's
AD says, didn't you know women are asexual? Women are not asexual. They're not. They're not. It's the truth. Women, I'm gonna let all the men in on a secret. Women like sex too. It's true. We do. It's true. Mike says, best late night chat ever. More of this, please. Yes, well, we'll have to see about that, Mike, but thank you. We'll see how this goes. We'll see what ramifications this stream has on my life and my reputation on the internet. After getting called a groomer and a drug smuggler and doing saucy late night reactions. This is, guys, I gotta tell you, when I got my PhD, this was exactly and explicitly how I envisioned my life turning out. This is it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put in all this work for 7 years doing a PhD part-time while I was working full-time so that I can talk about sex on the internet at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. That's the goal. It is my life's mission.
100% an issue of both the sexes, and effectively, what we're looking at here is both committing sins of the flesh, right? But both, this is really an online brothel. This is really what it is. It is online prostitution.
I agree. Yeah.
That's all. So it's
nothing
new.
I personally think it should be illegal. I really do, because I think it's a type of prostitution.
Absolutely, it is a type of prostitution.
You think an OnlyFans is prostitution?
Really, in the scenario of prostitution,
why do these people want to be able? So now we know that these two gentlemen, and I use that term very loosely, these two gentlemen want to be able to control what people do with their own bodies. Like, guess what? If you don't want to patronize OnlyFans, don't patronize OnlyFans. It's not that hard. But to say it's a form of prostitution, I don't think there's anything even wrong with prostitution as long as it's voluntary. As long as it's voluntary and no one is coercing anyone to do anything, like, it's your body. Do what you want with it. It's not that hard. Look, we got this guy in the chat saying women want a baller or rap star nowadays. This is so sad because, like, this is what men are learning. They really think that women will only date like rap stars. No, that's not true at all. Edie says, why has every woman told me they are? Edie, that might be a personal problem, but Edie, you're a good-looking strong Italian man. I have a hard time believing that every woman has told you that. You are a good-looking, strong Italian man. You can get many, many women that are definitely not asexual. George says, might not have been your goal, but it sure is fun. Yeah, well, life works in a mysterious ways. It does.
The online aspect of it, who's to blame? The woman is to blame for sexual deviancy.
The woman is to blame for sexual.
The woman offers her offers herself to blame willingly into a sexual union with a man that she's not married to. And then the man decides willingly to have sex with a woman that he's not married to. And so it's the
OnlyFans is not a sexual union. That is not a relationship.
Both of those are effectively to blame. But in a wider picture, what is to blame once again? What is allowing that to happen on such a vast scale? Is, as I said, the lack of social structures, lack of religion, lack of rigid moral structures. And so in that sense, the aristocracy, the ruling aristocracy, who are enforcing and ultimately creating that status quo, who are the status quo, they are to blame, because they are effectively the revolutionary children of the Enlightenment, who have discarded all Christian moral order, who are not interested in any of them, be the communists, neocons. They're all the same people. They are effectively willing to sacrifice people, nations, languages, races, religions, whatever, in order to achieve some form of a utopia. The neocons and the libertarians are looking for this utopia where everyone supposedly has this 100% free will, and it's just the free market working with no government and all of that. And the communists have a very similar mindset.
Yes, we're all very clear that you want to control other people's lives. That's really what he's saying. that he wants to control other people's lives, that he wants other people to be a slave to him and what he believes is acceptable behavior. And that's true of men and women. Like, this is not just against women, guys. This is against men too. Not all I can't imagine that every man wants to be like, I am the ruler of the roost and I will not have sex outside of the sacred bonds of marriage and all that stuff. I can't imagine that's actually appealing to a lot of men. Cold Summer 91, RAMZPAUL used to do live streams with a YouTuber I follow. Well, Ram seems nice in those streams. I didn't bother to follow him because in his normal videos, he's kind of annoying and a stick in the mud. Yes, I would say that stick in the mud is a very apt descriptor.
They're going towards a utopia where there is no hierarchy, where it's all flat, where everyone is equal and resources are distributed equally to avoid harm. So really, what all of these modern philosophies, they come from one source, and that is we go back to obviously it can be traced back, I would argue, to the Renaissance and the Reformation, but really, in politically speaking.
AD, I said hi to a woman once. Now she and her girlfriend are happily married. AD, here's what you need to do. You need to find like a really like sexy Italian girl and you need to cook for her. I know you can cook, AD. You need to make her a wonderful Italian meal and you guys can have some wine and like watch a movie. Like, I don't like, why am I giving dating advice on this stream? How did we end up at this place? My God. My God. Ugh. AD, I believe in you. I know you can find a woman, AD.
Speaking, we are on the right wing, left wing divide of the French Revolution, where the traditionalists, the real right wing, are the people who are rejecting revolutionary way of thought, yes, and who are accepting the Christian morality as the basis for society and are willing to implement policies based on that, against people who reject that Christian morality and just want to, go towards whatever utopia, be it communistic or libertarian utopia they want to go into. Both
I love how Christianity is like the only method or morality that these people choose, because it is all about just authoritarianism. George says, those who advocate for marriage only inside the wedlock are the most avid consumers of strip clubs or the next step. Yes, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Show me a guy that's saying you should never have sex outside of the bounds of marriage, and I will show you someone that is patronizing women who are taking off their clothes for one reason or another. Not that I have any judgment about that. I don't really care. If it makes you happy, do it. As long as they're engaging in a voluntary exchange, it is their business and your business, and it is no one else's business, and who the hell cares? Strippers are kind of gross. I think most men can do better, but if it makes you happy, do it.
Rejecting nature and Christ. So who are to blame? These philosophies, the status quo, and in particular men and women who engage in these issues.
Oh my gosh.
Both sides.
Thank you guys for the super chats you're sending in. I'm sorry I keep pausing them, but I do want to acknowledge the super chats because super chats are basically the thing that keep this channel going. Let me tell you what. Tom J, AD, I feel that my first girlfriend from 16 is now married to a woman 20 something years later. Sorry, lady. Something went wrong a while back. I don't understand. Okay, like obviously, like I look like a lesbian, and usually lesbians are very quick to fall in love with me. I will say this: I don't. I wouldn't want. I would never want to date a woman. Never, ever, 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 ever. No offense to women. No offense to the lesbians out there. It's just like rife for drama, man. Rife for drama. Women are too much. AD says, I did that once. Now she is AOC's campaign manager. AD. And Jess says, they're astroturfing Christianity. They're way worse than the moralists of the 80s and 90s. These people are medieval. I agree, Jess. I'm like the fact that this is a serious conversation right now and that people are like, yes, this is the way that we should behave. This is how men should rule over women, even involuntarily. Like, I mean, it's a little bit bizarre to me. It's like very, I just can't believe that there are actually people who believe this in the world in 2022, but here we are.
And talking about religion a little bit is, in some ways, a failure of religion to check that behavior. And in many cases, religion, and I know there's always a difference between people that espouse a religion and ones that really believe it and actually adopt the precepts. And repent, by the way, doesn't mean just saying you're sorry, it means you're changing the way you live. But I saw even years ago, I once dated a Romanian girl, and she said that they're Orthodox there, but they also have a high level of prostitution, of abortion, of STDs. So even though all these people were supposedly in the Orthodox Church, it really didn't change their behavior whatsoever. And I think my concern, and again, I'm not throwing stones at anyone, with a lot of these new movements, let's say American First, where it's supposedly Catholic or Christian, but then you have a lot of the people that are within that, they do things that are contrary to that, like, yeah, let's smash these hoes, and they go out and they kind of glorify that type of lifestyle that doesn't really correspond to Christianity. So it's like they're using Christianity as kind of a skin suit. And I don't know, for a tactical reason, but it doesn't really correspond with their actions.
I kid you not, I just had a vision of having sex with this guy in my head, and it was so awful that I almost threw up. I'm not even joking about that. I was like listening to him talk about how all this is immoral, and I was like, I wonder what that would actually like. No, don't put that vision in my head. Oh my god, this poor guy's. I'm sure there is at least one woman in the world to love him. John, I don't know. It was a moment of lapsed judgment. Sometimes I think sex to me is sometimes I think it just is so revealing about a person. And so I think about this topic way too much, not actually even in a sexual way, but it's just revealing about who a person is. And I made a mistake. It was wrong. And I paid the price. 80 told the girl she shouldn't have to strip. OnlyFans increased 500%. Listen, man, if you can make it on OnlyFans, good for you, dude. Being successful on OnlyFans probably frees you up to do a lot of other things with a lot of hours in your day. Oh, he's divorced? Oh, he's divorced? What does Jesus think about that? Doesn't Jesus frown on divorce, RAMZPAUL? Doesn't the church frown on divorce? Oh, God, I'm never oh, God, the image went back! Alright. I'm gonna get through this. This is my own fault.
And I struggle with this because I understand no one's perfect.
I'm struggling too, okay? You're not the only one struggling.
Everyone has, but there has to be some point if you're like, no, this is the core of our belief, and we're going to insist that people pretty much walk with this belief. And we're not going to promote people that make it their living to go out and pick up prostitutes or mentally ill women. How do you?
Prostitutes or mentally ill women? Only if it's peanut butter whiskey, Mike. I only drink peanut butter whiskey. Yeah, things to clip out of context, number 4,217. Exactly. My whole I should rename my channel Clipped Out of Context. That should be the new name for my channel, Clipped Out of Context. Emily Atwood, I have worked with 3 different men with this attitude. They have all been in their early 20s. Isn't that entirely predictable? Entirely predictable. Yeah, Sam, good question. I wonder why he's not showing his face. If he's so confident in his ideas, shouldn't he put his face and name on the internet?
Reconcile that. To me, that seems to damage the whole, Christ is king type of thing when you're saying that, but
so
then
does
you're
divorce.
acting in a totally different way.
So does divorce, RAMZPAUL.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, as you alluded multiple times already, these movements are young, namely the Groypers. That's a young movement. And so what we see is, basically boisterous, mischievous way of acting. Words that perhaps adults, like yourself, people who are more mature, wouldn't use, right? I mean, I wouldn't use them because I don't usually use those words in my vocabulary. I don't find them to be very aesthetical words. So, all the cuss words and
Yeah,
things.
and
But
I should jump in. I'm excluding you from this because you sound very, I mean, you're very sophisticated, you're very articulate. And I'm not just saying using bad words, so that's something, but it's just
RAMZPAUL is
the
confused just because
behavior,
this
Mhm.
guy
right?
has a
So
British
if you're going to
accent.
say
That's why he thinks
we're
he's
all about
sophisticated.
Christ as King, and then like, oh, let's go out and try to pick up some mentally ill women and have sex with them. There's a big disconnect there. It's like, okay, you need. I think didn't God say or Jesus said you should either be hot or cold, but if you're like lukewarm, He'll vomit you out. I think you need to kind of determine which way you're going to be, and if you want to be, the guy that goes around and picks up girls for fun or money, okay, but I don't see how you can tie that to the Christ is King type of thing.
No, well, you can't. I mean, effectively, if you are having a conservative traditionalist Catholic movement, uh, one of the policies that the movement would have to promote would be this anti-feminism and anti-sexual debauchery. So of course not. Of course, those kinds of behaviors should be condemned. Not everyone is going to live up to those, and of
Right,
course,
right. No.
people are young and everything. But at the same time, I have to kind of jump in and say that a lot of these women are just degenerates. They are just as degenerate as men are, right? They don't get
Oh,
protection,
yeah,
so
big
they
time.
have earned this equality. So if they want to play according to that playbook, they will get the same critique, they will get the same
Right.
kind of outlook as the men have, and degenerate men also deserve to be called out, and basically shown the proper way.
Wait, so hang on. Someone is blocked. Okay, bot number 00001. I don't know why you're blocked in the chat. I do see your tweet about it. I don't know why you're blocked in the chat. Send me an email with what your YouTube like profile is, and I will look into that. But let me know what your username is, and I will take care of it.
And to be shown that they're the ones who are destroying society. So if there are women who are promoting these things and who are doing these things, I mean, they are contributing to the destruction of society, and therefore, I don't necessarily think that sometimes just
Shit.
let's say using some crude language towards them is necessarily even a bad thing. I think sometimes it's well deserved, and you also have to look at the power imbalance here. The Groypers or all these or other traditionalist movements, they have very little kind of constitution, very little political power. They were silenced. They're being thrown out of everywhere. I mean, and that's in the U.S. I can't even imagine what an America First style movement in Europe would look like, because we have laws that are just you won't be able to talk about anything. The WQ, the JQ, whatever, it's just out of the question. But what you're seeing here is a power imbalance. For 100 years, women have been kind of supplanting men and really kind of looking down upon men. And it's girl power this, woman power that, freedom.
So what? Why can't women feel good about themselves and feel good about their contributions? Like, listen, I'm not always a fan of like defaulting to this gender bullshit. I mostly think it's nonsense. Sometimes there are very valid arguments to be made, but there's also nothing wrong with saying like girl power. If it makes people feel good, like, and it makes them believe in themselves, who really cares? Just because someone believes in themselves doesn't mean you can't believe in yourself. It is not that's not the way life works. You don't have to bring someone else down in order to lift yourself up. Everyone can be lifted up. There is more than enough for everyone.
For women, when men are bad, men are toxic, and women are these holy, oppressed peoples. Look, sometimes, if they do occupy these kind of high social and political spaces, well, then they should be prepared to face the consequences. They should be prepared to face the critique. And I think in so many cases, these women are, a lot of them are rich and gotten rich and gotten powerful off of all the various vices they promote. They deserve to be called out and deserve to be cursed at, even, I would say.
Good
even
night,
though it may not be very Christian of me to say so.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did he literally just say women deserve to be cast out, but it's not very Christian of him to say that? I don't think it's very Christian to say that anyone should be cast out. That doesn't sound very Christian to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Women are actually just as sexual, if not more so, than men. That's something a lot of a lot of people didn't realize in society because it's somewhat hidden, but it's definitely true. But I was just saying, kind of the disconnect. Now, I wasn't even talking about women. I was talking about men that you proclaim.
There's enough of everything for everyone. There's more than enough of everything for everyone if we make the decision to just let people do their own things. Like scarcity is a myth. There is so many okay, so take food for example. There is more than enough food in the world for everyone to be fed. The problem is that people hoard food, and then there are other people who are convinced that there's not enough food, and it's it's all about human perception and human behavior that prevents everyone in the world from being fed. The same is true for everything. There's more than enough business for everyone. There's more than enough sex for everyone. There's more than enough love for everyone. There's more than enough, opportunities for everyone. There is more than enough. But the problem is when people perceive that there's scarcity. Scarcity is a myth. It is all a mind game.
Claim to be this is what we stand for, and yet then you sponsor things that are totally contrary to that. That's sort of a disconnect. And I'll bring up the one example, and again, I'm not asking you to defend this because you're not part of it, but it's one of those things that's an easy thing to do. And it's sort of a got you moment, like that Louis Theroux thing when he did about the American First. And I thought Nicholas Fuentes, I thought he came across really well. But then one of the
Really?
guys he has on his platform, Beardson, was talking about how he wanted to sexually assault a woman in a very graphic fashion. And then obviously the thing is, okay, how do you reconcile these two things? It doesn't really make sense. And Beardson afterwards did apologize, but and maybe you're right, and maybe it is maturity as that people get older. But some of these people I'm talking about are in their 30s; they're not children, and that's that's something I've done some bad things, but I've never publicly threatened to rape someone. Uh, do you see that as an
All right,
issue that needs to
bonus.
be
Okay,
addressed, or is
Ramsey
it just
Paul
going to
1
fix
points
itself?
back with that. He's never
On
threatened to
that
publicly
Beardson
assault
issue, I
someone.
remember we mentioned it in our conversation
Yeah,
affair, obviously before, and I should have gone back and looked into it. Why was it exactly? Why did he, talk about, raping that woman in particular? Why was that?
They had some sort of beef, I guess. I don't even know the details. And the woman is Brittany Venti, and she's a nice lady. She's on the internet a lot. She's somewhat famous, and for some reason, he got really upset about her because she used to be like raper adjacent. She was,
Oh,
yeah, and so I
right.
don't know. And see, part of the issue that they do is they use irony as a way to try to get out of things, saying, "Boy, bro, it's just being ironic." But the problem is, like normal people look at that and they're like, "No, I don't think I want to be involved with anything like this." And I think Louis Theroux knew that, so he was able to basically say, "Okay, these people are saying Christ is king, they're about traditionalism and all this, and then look at this guy." He wants to anally rape someone. He's saying on air, and he didn't have to say anything. It's just like the normal person's going to see that and go say, "Wait a minute, something's really messed up here."
Yeah, well, that's kind of the key. We also talked a fair about that about the fact how women subvert movements, political movements from within. And so I seem to remember, now that you mention this, that Louis Theroux brought on this girl for a segment in that
Yeah,
documentary because she used to
yeah,
be
Brittany
Groyper
Venter.
adjacent, and
Yeah,
then she kind of started going off and talking about, how extreme, and how extreme AF is, and how these men are all incels, and basically trying to sabotage the movement that she used to be a part of, from what I understand. And that's why, obviously some people in that movement got angry at her. And so that's really, I mean, I wouldn't, let's say, use the same language, but to me it seems like almost the same thing as saying "f you," but it's a way of being rude. It's a way of condemning someone when you are, having an emotional reaction for effectively against someone that betrayed you and your movement and so on. So I don't really see, I wouldn't necessarily use the same crude language, but I would say that especially women who try to climb up the ranks in these movements or who try to be relevant to these movements and then end up subverting those movements inevitably, as it happened before. They sometimes they need to be shouted at, and sometimes it's not going to be pretty. I don't think that he was saying that
women need to be shouted at for subverting your movement. I would absolutely love to see this guy try to shout at me. I would absolutely love to see how precisely that would work out for him. In fact, friends of Aquinas, you are welcome to come on my channel anytime and tell me off for the little woman that I am. Please do it. Please do it. I think that would work out beautifully for you. I think that you would get to show exactly how manly and masculine you are, you big Russian man. I think that would work out exactly like we all know that it would.
because he actually wanted to do it, that he was threatening
No,
it.
no,
He was
I
just
don't.
angry. He was
Yeah.
angry at her subverting the movement, and so he just said "f you," but let's say in an elaborate way, if you will. And I think that's totally fine. I just think that we need to be really careful and we need to be realistic when it comes to these scenarios. Like, what is actually happening here? What are the reasons for this? So they didn't just come up to her randomly and did it. She had that anger coming effectively. So we really have to be careful when we're addressing it.
I have some people in the comments section of my channel right now who are they're having some feelings over the fact that I did a stream the other night basically saying, here's the difference between the right and the alt-right, and don't get sucked into the alt-right. And I have all these people that are reading in my comments, they're like, the alt-right is fake, it's not real. And this is something I find of conservatives all the time. Conservatives do this. They're like, the alt-right isn't real. And I'm like, yes, it is. And they're like, they're just secret leftists. This is the other excuse conservatives love to give. They're like, those are secret leftists. They're just trying to fool you. Like, no, they're not. The alt-right is real. And this right here is exactly what the alt-right looks like. This is the alt-right right here. And so any conservative that might be having some feelings over the fact that I say the alt-right is a real thing, we are watching the alt-right right in front of us right now. They are not secret leftists. They're not spies. It is real. And every single time conservatives say that the alt-right isn't real, they look ridiculous and silly. Yeah. And if you don't think the alt-right is real, just go on Gab any day. I'm not saying everyone on Gab is alt-right, but there are a lot of alt-right people on Gab. It's true. Yep, Shannon said it too. Go on Gab. Gab is... Go look at Lauren Witzke's Gab account.
For addressing these situations.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I would think that you need to be a little bit better. And I'm not, when I say you, I don't mean you, obviously, Thomas. I mean the people in general. I've often told, well, I was speaking with Sasha, sometimes you got to figure out really what you want to be. And what I mean by that, are you going to be like trollish, mischievous type of boys doing stuff, or are you going to be a serious political movement? You got to decide. You can't really
you
do
guys
both,
are never going to be a serious
because then it
political
comes
movement.
across you
That's
have
not
these
going to
issues,
happen.
and either way is fine.
That is not going to
But if
happen
you're going to
at
be, I
all
think,
in any
fairly
way.
serious about it, you got to be able to check your emotions that way. I worked in the business world, for example, for years, and there's a lot of times you'd be pissed off at a customer, but
They're saying America
or
first
someone
is a
you
joke.
worked with, but you kind of yell at them that you wanted to rape.
This is the other thing that like your typical like MAGA like Trump person doesn't understand when they say like the alt-right doesn't exist. Dude, the alt-right hates you. The alt-right hates you. They don't think that like you have any value in the world at all. So it's like conservatives, like regular conservatives and like these MAGA types are like defending the alt-right and deflecting for the alt-right, and the alt-right hates them. It's like Trump being a part of the Republican Party. The Republican Party hates Trump, hates them, and Trump is in a position of constantly having to like run cover for these people that hate him. The alt-right hates you, conservatives. They do not like you.
I mean, that just wanted to fly. So, and so I think politics we should have, like, especially if we're going to be on the Christian traditionalist right, we should have a higher standard. And sometimes the better thing is not to really say anything about it versus doing this. And again, I don't mean to pick on Beardson, but I don't think this is necessarily an isolated case. It's sort of what I said. You got to pick really what you want to be, and I think I'm an outsider, so I don't know, but I think America First is a sort of at a kind of a crisis moment or inflection. I think they can continue to grow and be big, but they got to decide really what they want to be. Are they a serious political movement, or they're like a bunch of boys? And some of these boys are in their 30s.
Ooh, I'm not saying your username. And I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I adore you, but I don't believe you. Are you going on Hunter Avalon's channel? No, but you know who is going on Hunter Avalon's channel on Wednesday at around 2 p.m. I know who's going on Hunter Avalon's channel. Our friend Alex is going on Hunter Avalon's channel Wednesday, 2 p.m. We're going to do a special meta stream. We're all going to send Alex our support and our love as he goes into the belly of the beast. I expect Alex to defend my honor. We're going to have a coaching session on how to handle that little shit, Hunter Avalon. It's going to be great. Alex is going to do a great job. It's going to be awesome. Cold Summer 91 says, Black Hebrew Israelites are more likely to become a serious political movement than these people. Yes, that is exactly correct. Cold Summer 91, that's possibly the most accurate super chat you have ever sent in your life.
That just want to go out and troll. And I think there's a big difference, because a lot of people, if you're a political movement and traditionalist and on the right, you kind of think salt of the earth people, you know, like say a farmer with he's married and he has children and they go to church. I would think that's what you want to appeal to, not irony bros going around doing crazy hijinks. So
Tom J says, if this is the alt-right, you weren't at my Black fam barbecue today. Been rolling my eyes for decades at all types. Don't try recruiting me to the libertarians. Alex, good luck. Tom J, I won't try to recruit you to the libertarians. I will just let the libertarians naturally rise to the top of the heap amongst the insanity that are the two awful major parties and everything else. I don't even feel the need to recruit anyone. I just think that the libertarians are going to stand out as the only logical choice by 2024. We've got like over 2 years, dude. We've got over 2 years. It'll be great. You're all, even your super chat is gold. You're going to be gold by 2024. Just mark my words.
I think that's kind of an issue there. And again, I don't condemn it. I understand why they're doing it. Part of it is for like views and exposure, but then you get the backlash. So it's a line I think you have to decide how you're going to walk that.
I think a lot of this criticism comes from two camps, which are very obvious here, but it needs to be stated. First camp in opposition to, you know, some of this use of crude language, and especially not just the use of crude language, let's face it, to America First itself, is women. That's one camp, because of course they're, you know, they've enjoyed these power structures and basically you know, having men under their heel for so long, and they're so used to this that, you know, anything that threatens their positions, they, you know, it's an insecurity for them. And the other camp, as you,
I would deeply love Friends of Aquinas to try to exert his dominance over me. He's like, Karlyn, you've just been too used to being over men in your life, and yeah, dude, try it. Honestly, try it. Let's see how that goes for you. I should invite this guy on my channel. I absolutely should. Who wants me to invite this guy on my channel for a chat?
You've said are effectively, as you've called them, and as many people do call them, simps, who are just these men who are under the heels of these women, who are defending their ladies.
Emo Dante, honest question, where does libertarianism end and anarcho-capitalism begin? I mean, anarcho-capitalism is like on the libertarian spectrum. So, I mean, there are all sorts of libertarians. There are like minarchists all the way to anarchists. Like anarcho-capitalism, as it's explained to me, is like right before anarchist, where anarcho-capitalists still believe in private property rights. Anarchists apparently do not believe in private property rights. But like, no, I mean, our anarcho-capitalists are libertarians. So, yeah.
So to speak. So we really have to see whether the criticism and comes from a genuine place. And I think in a lot of cases, especially in the cases of this internet outrage.
But hang on, I want to say
these,
this. I kind of think like the debate between like minarchist versus anarchist, like we're not even there yet. Honestly, like I kind of think all these labels are dumb. The fact of the matter is like we still have a long ways to go even to get to minarchist. And so it's like, can we hold off on the debate between minarchist or anarchist until we can at least get to minarchist, and then we can say, okay, let's evaluate how this is going, and then we can go further if we need to. But we are so far off from even that. It's like the debate between the two is putting the cart before the horse. We need to pull things back like 3,000 miles before we even get to this discussion, and once we get there we can have that discussion. But I think it's just like it just inhibits progress. Yeah, Jess says you do not have to be an ANCAP to be a libertarian. I'm not an ANCAP. I am very small local government and hold a lot of right-wing values. I don't force anyone to act the way I do, hold the same values. Yeah, you don't have to be an anarcho-capitalist in order to be a libertarian. There are all sorts of like varying degrees on the spectrum, and everyone is welcome. As long as you believe in private property and you don't think anyone should be a slave to your whim, and there are some other things too, but those are like the biggies, then you would probably be welcome. But private property is like private property, the non-aggression principle, like voluntarism, like those are like the big things, and then it's shades beyond that.
These protests, they do not come from good faith. I see, Mr. Ramsey, what you mean here. You obviously have a good faith critique. It seems like you are broadly in support of the movement. It seems like you broadly want it to succeed. You think there is something going for them, and so you're kind of sharing your political outlook on this and saying, look, maybe we should do more of what we preach and actually speak like Christians and so on, and try to contain the boyishness. But in a lot of cases, in the vast majority of cases, it's either men, it's either men who are subservient to women, simps, who are throwing these criticism at AF, or it's women themselves who are doing this. And in the vast majority of cases, it's going to be dishonest, and unfortunately, it's just going to be, basically extend all of this big hysteria over the movement.
Yeah, and getting to that simp issue, and I think that's a term that's thrown around a little bit loosely now. And again, I think the original meaning of the term actually has some importance. So I would define as a simp as a man who is giving money to a woman, or just constantly showering her with, oh, you're so wonderful, giving her up likes constantly. And that's a simp. And in the hopes.
Oh, God. Why is Alex going on Hunter's channel? Is Alex looking for a new bottom? Well, I will let Alex answer the second part of that question. I think Alex is going on Hunter's channel because Alex is, he is getting serious about his YouTube channel and he wants to get some more exposure. And Hunter is a douche, and I'm sure as shit not going on Hunter's channel. And I think that Alex is stepping up and taking one for the team. And his job is to defend my honor in my copious absence. Alex, you better not throw me under the bus on Hunter's channel. Don't think I won't be. Alex, we're gonna stop our community Zoom call on Wednesday just to meta stream you on Hunter's channel. No pressure. No pressure. I think you're gonna do a great job.
For something in return romantically. It's not just being nice to be nice. For example, if I'm
You better not
at the store and there's a woman, she has packages
You better
in her hands. It
not.
wouldn't even have to be a woman for that matter, but let's say if a woman does, and I open the door for her. I'm not simping for her because I'm being nice. I'm just doing what I think is a good human being to do. So I think we got to be careful that, oh, you're being nice to a girl, you're a simp. And no, not necessarily. We're kind of making that term too broad, and that's always the danger now. If you say, well, guys, maybe women have a place and we shouldn't really hate on them. Oh, you're simping. Well, that's not really the original definition of the word simp. And getting back to the other point of, I've just seen, and you're right, I hope America First can do great things. I think Nicholas Fuentes is extremely talented, extremely a good debater. I saw him debate Destiny.
I put a clip on my Twitter today of Nick Fuentes basically advocating for a Christian theocracy. Like, it's not even like a subtle thing. He's advocating for a Christian theocratic government in the United States. So no, I do not believe Nick Fuentes is talented. Nick Fuentes is a con artist. Nick Fuentes is a snake oil salesman. That is what Nick Fuentes is. Let's see. You want to see some real shit? Watch anything with E. Michael Jones. He's the most extreme I have seen as far as anti-Semitism on the right goes. It is sick. Well, I'm going to have to write that down, Jess. I have no idea who that is. And, I do appreciate extremist content. I do. It is a guilty pleasure. It's not that I agree with these people. It's that I am continually astonished at how bad they are and just how awful it is, and that people in the world actually think this way. So I will check that out. Thank you.
And Destiny is, I don't really care for Destiny personally, but he is pretty quick verbally, and his debate with Destiny was outstanding. Those are two guys on top of their game. They're both young, they're both intelligent. It was a great debate to watch. I think it was about Russia and Ukraine. If you guys get a chance to see it, see it. It was on the kill stream. But there's something that we have to be careful about, is that we don't do the repeats of the past. And there's a little bit of irony here, because I don't know if you know the history of Nick. He kind of broke away from the alt-right movement.
No.
Because the alt-right with Richard Spencer's had bad optics. He started to attract the Nazi, the Daily Stormer crowd.
Nick Fuentes has created his own alt-right movement. Richard Spencer is no longer relevant. Nick Fuentes is like the fucking poster child for the alt-right. And maybe people might have other ideas about that, but that's kind of how I perceive it right now. Like, Nick Fuentes didn't break away from anything. I mean, that's just an absurd idea. Sorry.
That type of crowd. And it was like, oh, this was a disaster. We can't have this. We got to have good optics. But ironically, now they're running into the same optic problems. Now, it's not a swastika, but it's like, oh, we're incels and we can't stand women and blah, blah, blah. And that's not a really good optical approach. Again, it is maybe for the bro culture. But if you're going to be a serious movement that's going to relate to, say, my neighbor right across the way,
you're not going to be a serious
he wouldn't
movement.
Understand it. Because first of all, I know
that is not going to happen in any way, shape, or form.
Like rural people. Well, that's a big part of the people that are conservative, and this whole thing about the women issue is.
Nick Fuentes did a rant about how he doesn't like rural people. Really? Has anyone seen that? I would be interested to see that.
It rubs a lot of people the wrong way that aren't necessarily simps or successful ranchers and everything else, but they don't like it to see it. So I just don't want the American First movement to go kind of the same route as that, which is ironic because alt-right started out as kind of a broad coalition, and then Spencer decided to go the Daily Stormer route. Then the Daily Stormer, they kind of revised themselves, and then they became like this anti-woman thing. Now I see Nick going down that way.
Really?
I think that's a mistake. And I don't think that's necessarily simping. It's just
I didn't realize that that was the evolution in the Daily Stormer. If I'm on, I haven't even looked into the Daily Stormer in years. I remember looking into the Daily Stormer when I was in high school. Yeah, I used to look at all this stuff in high school just out of sheer curiosity's sake. I remember looking into it in high school. I didn't realize they had evolved in that way, but I guess that's not surprising to me. AD, my name is George. I'm unemployed and I love / my parents. Thank you, AD. Appreciate it.
I don't believe, anyway, from what I see, a traditional view is definitely not feminism, but at the same time, it's not like an anger towards women in general. And I think it's sort of slipped into that territory a little bit, which isn't
even
going
this is why I like to have the chat up. Even people in the chat are saying Nick Fuentes likes the Daily Stormer, though. So they're saying that Nick Fuentes is not opposed to the Daily Stormer, which says a lot about Nick Fuentes.
to be beneficial for us.
Yeah, I think that goes to something that I said earlier, which is that I think we may mistake hatred for just a different societal structure. You know, a lot of when you know you see the Reuters talk about women, or let's just say when you see Nicholas J. Fuentes on his stream, you hear him talk about women. He may have this kind of authoritative tone because that's, once again, I believe that's, and he probably believes that it's probably the issue right now from which all the other issues stem. But ultimately, if you actually listen to the contents of what he's saying, he's not saying women are bad because women are crap, because I hate women, because basically what he's saying is there are biological realities, and then there are societal structures which we want to build, and the world in which we want to live. And ultimately, it's a totally different world from the world of feminism in which we live now. And I think is just, once again, a lot of that criticism and a lot of that seeming hatred comes from the misunderstanding.
Hang on. AD, go watch the video that Nick Fuentes did with his friend where they went shopping and the friend is like dressed up like a cat or something. Nick Fuentes is absolutely gay. Nick Fuentes wants a dick in the ass more than any obviously repressed gay man that I have ever seen in my life. Nick Fuentes is obvious. This is the problem. This is what happened. Nick Fuentes is a walking example of what happens when you repress your sexual urges. He is obviously gay. Obviously. There is no question. And because he has repressed those sexual urges, he manifests in really toxic ways. That's what happens. Guys, nothing you want in bed is bad. Okay, don't hurt other people unless they volunteer to be hurt. Nothing you want in bed is bad or wrong. It is fantasy most of the time. Don't repress those urges. It will always bite you. It will make you mean and hateful and bitter. I guarantee you someone in the world wants to have sex with you in the way that you want to have sex. Just like your life is going to be so much easier and better. You're going to feel better. It's just so sad when men are obviously gay and are obviously repressing everything that they want. There's nothing wrong with it.
Understanding that simply we were talking about a different society that works differently, as it has worked for a long time, but basically an anti-revolutionary society.
Yes, and don't be a vegan.
Society. When a woman, her worth is not measured in how many years she spent chained to a cubicle. You know, we're talking about a totally different world. It's nothing to do with hatred, just biological and political realities.
Oh, yeah. And women have always worked, it maybe not in factories and stuff too. And women should have the option to stay home and raise children and be wives and mothers. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I agree with you 100%. I think the attack on our country, fundamental, not our country, our society, is against the family. And that's why we see all these initiatives. Some I won't go into, I'm sure you're aware of. It's trying to break down the unit of, I think every child needs a mother and a father. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think a child should be raised by the mother, but I think a father is very important too. And
Yeah.
we've seen this early on, even when I was a kid. I'm a product of divorce. My parents divorced. And so
Oh, that
that happened in the
explains so
70s,
much.
and it became more popular. But then starting about in the 80s,
No
there was
shade on people who are
a
children of
famous
divorce.
episode called Murphy Brown. And I know this is before you were Brown, you were born, but the episode was kind of glorifying single motherhood. The main character, by choice, became a single mother.
Yeah.
Our vice president at the time, Dan Quayle, came out against that, saying that's not a good message, and he got attacked without mercy. And so that kind of kicked off the whole single mother is a good thing, and that kids don't need a dad. And now we're into this very strange things that we don't even know what's male and female when that's the fundamental unit. And I definitely agree. A return to tradition, it has to come back to the role of the man and the woman. And I think God has made us, it's not so much one superior to the other. There's a hierarchy. It's God, man, woman, child, and that's how it should be. It doesn't mean one's superior to the other. And I think both men and women
That is
need
literally
each
what it
other.
means. That's what a
But
hierarchy is. That's literally what it means.
so we got to get, I think, the balance. And I think in a lot of things in life, it comes down to balance. And
Yeah.
let me do a couple of super chats here. Thank you very much. K-Max, he's a good supporter. Ramsey did one thing that create the feminist movement was not getting enough credit for the role in American society. Social leaders of a community and mothers got no credit. Business tycoons and rich people did that. I don't know. I think women, from my reading, because I'm kind of like Thomas, I like to read history. I think women were, at least in Western civilization, were always valued, unlike other cultures where they were literally property. But in Western civilization, I think wives and mothers, obviously not in all cases, but were valued as a role. And they were given a lot of credit. And of course, there were famous females, like, of course, from your country you're in now, you had various queens, right? Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah.
It actually did.
They
Wait.
did exist. And then
Are they arguing that Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria and now Queen Elizabeth II didn't work out well? Because it actually seemed to. Like, what is your problem?
Oh, Joan of Arc, right? She was, I believe, a Catholic saint, wasn't she? So there, I don't know if the case that women weren't valued. What are your thoughts on that, Thomas?
Yeah, already said women were valued according to a different metric. Women were not valued, according to how well they can do a man's job. They were valued according to how well they can do their biological kind of their jobs that the biology effectively push them towards and prescribe them. And linking that to what you have said before, I mean, look, this whole family breakdown. When you say we need a mother and a father, right, within a family, why? And this is it, right? So even the nominal conservatives would say these things. We need a mother and a father. Ideally, we need a mother and a father. But why? And the reason is because why can't we have two moms or two dads? Is because they are different and they perform different roles, and that is just a biological reality. And in order to have a cohesive family, they need to fulfill their respective roles, and that needs to be legislated at
What?
the societal level. That's another very important point.
Did you guys just hear that? He said that having a mother and a father need to be legislated at a societal level. He wants to legislate at a societal level that you can't have two mothers and two fathers or like single parents. It has to be the way they demanded in this theocratic nightmare. Let's just listen to that again. That caught me off guard. I wasn't anticipating that. Oh shit, here we go.
Nominal conservatives would say these things. We need a mother and a father. Ideally, we need a mother and a father. But why? And the reason is because why can't we have two moms or two dads? Is because they are different and they perform different roles, and that is just a biological reality. And in order to have a cohesive family, they need to fulfill their respective roles, and that needs to be legislated at a societal level. That's another very important point at a political level. So the key thing to understand is, I think all of the traditionalist movements in the future, I mean, they will totally abandon this idea, this libertarian utopianistic, utopistic idea that you need to, somehow involve as little government as possible. No, that's totally ridiculous. Once again, that it comes from the liberal framework, which we ought to totally reject. The government is there, the aristocracy, the king, the ruling class is there to maintain social structures, to maintain cohesion, to maintain morality, and to maintain the country.
Fuck you. No, this guy at 23 years old, doesn't know shit about shit, has no life experience, probably never even had a real job in his life, probably never had a real girlfriend in his life, has no idea what a real long-term relationship looks like, has no idea what's required to actually raise children. This guy wants you to be a slave. This guy wants you to be a slave to his view of the world. And that's why we need to fundamentally reject every single person who argues that we should be legislating morality, and that includes a lot of conservative Christians. I am sorry. Anyone who says that this country was founded on conservative Christian morals, no, those people should never be allowed in a position of power at all, ever, in any way. No. They are no different than woke leftists. No different at all.
And to advance the country's goals and agendas on the international stage also. And so in that light, of course, we also need to say that, and which is also very important, in that separation of men and women, you had this Joe Kent incident with America First, where he disavowed them, and then he said these inclusive populism thing, right? He talked about inclusive populism. I don't like America First because they don't include women, and they don't include seemingly they don't include blacks and whatever. Look, it's it's a matter of traditionalist movements cannot be inclusive. They're not inclusive movements. One of their goals is to have a male-dominated or male-exclusive political structure and just power structures in general, because that's what men are.
Alex, we can't be friends anymore. We can't be friends if you're going to enforce your conservative morality on everyone else. We can't be friends.
For men are for leading. And so it is by definition excluding women from certain roles. But that comes...
In fact, just for Alex right now, I'm taking an edible because it's going to help me go to sleep later. This is a nice indica. I'm not glorifying drugs. Just for Alex. Double baked cheesecake chocolate goodness.
At the same time, we're excluding men from other roles. That's what needs to be understood, is that it's not about kicking one or the other from one role or another. It's about realigning once again,
those
going
should
back
kick
to
in
the
just when I'm going to
natural
bed.
realignment, where
in theory,
every sex fulfills its
otherwise
own,
the stream might get
roles.
really silly.
Yeah, I think that was a good response, and we got a couple other Thursday Novo. And we know this guy in real life, Thomas, and he is also from Russia. So he lives in the United States now, though. He said, "Good to see you guys. Get back safe. This is an important conversation. You don't need to read this right away."
You know, I did promise my haters that I was going to eat edibles today just for them. But Karlyn, he went to a university and has a British accent. Therefore, he should be able to enforce his morality on all of us. Thank you, Sam.
I don't want to interrupt, but thank you, Serge, for that. And yeah, Sasha and I, we got back from a bowling event down in Dallas, and that was a lot of fun. And have you ever bowled, Thomas? Is that something you've done?
Bowling.
Have I
What?
ever bowled?
Yes.
Oh yeah, a lot actually. That
Do
was
they have bowling in England? I don't even know.
not in England.
Tom J says, I agree with the man woman need families, but do you agree with legislating that? Listen, there is a difference between agreeing that something is a good idea and choosing to make those choices in your life, and using the power of the state to force every other person in the world to live by your beliefs. Those are two different things.
England, but back in my home country they did, where
bowling alleys and everything. Okay.
where basically there are lots of bowling alleys, and that was kind of the default boring way of spending a birthday. So that was like the default, if you knew that your boring friend had a birthday, it was going to be bowling 100%. So it got old pretty quickly. I must say it got old, although it's in that sense it's kind of a nostalgic sport. I think you can call it that for me. So I'm sending my greetings to Russia. Z. I'm writing the Z right now on this piece of paper I'm scrambling on in support of the Tsar, definitely, and good luck Russia in restoring its historical presence in the Ukraine.
Yeah,
What?
it's I think they're going to ban the letter Z.
Did he just say good luck to Russia in restoring their historical presence in Ukraine? Did this guy literally just cheer for Russia to take over Ukraine? I'm pretty sure he did. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Right? That's we have the N word, and now we have a whole letter we can't use anymore. So it's quite the thing.
I've seen that some companies which have Z as the kind of the letter on a logo or something like that, or a prominent letter as a part of their name. They're trying to be a part of this moral crusade and change their logos, and this is also ridiculous. I mean, it's not anything groundbreaking, but it's really just a moral crusade, all this.
I love how you British, even though you're not British, say Z. We call it Z. You guys say Z. It sounds more sophisticated.
So I said Z first because that's kind of
Well,
a referential.
It is like we learned a couple months ago when we went through those alphabet coloring books that like asexual. Another term for asexual is Z-sexual. And it means exactly the same thing. It's just a different term. And I kind of liked that. I was like, Z-sexual. That sounds actually a lot better than asexual.
But I would usually say Z, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you down, visit the South, and you'll be talking like a Southerner before you know it.
I would love to visit the South.
Y'all and everything else. Yeah, you'd love it down here. It's a lot of fun. So
I wanted
I'd
to ask
love to
about
have
the
you. If
South.
you're down here, we'd love to meet you. So,
Yeah.
Norfan Boz, tip 690. Thank you. I don't think AF will succeed ultimately. Nick is in too much of a bubble and not enough of normal adult life experience. He has too many blind spots. He wants to learn from failure of alt-right, but not his successes. We will have to have a third, more successful way. Well, I mean, the jury's out.
Guys, by the way, it's now the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Yay, America. God bless America. Until New Hampshire succeeds or secedes, rather. And then we don't really care anymore. But for right now, we're part of the country. So God bless America. Happy 4th of July, everyone.
He's done a lot of great stuff, and we'll have to see how it matures the movement. And it's kind of ironic, Thomas. Right before we had this conversation, I followed Nick on Telegram, and he did a whole bunch of, they don't tweet there, whatever they.
Can you imagine what goes on in the bowels of Nick Fuentes' Telegram? Oh God, I'm gonna have to look that up. Holy shit. I gotta look up Nick Fuentes' Telegram. Hang on, stand by.
Call it. But he's trying to kind of explain his position on women, that no, I really don't hate women and blah, blah, blah. So I think he realizes there is an issue there that it needs to be.
Did you guys know that I am in Milo Yiannopoulos' secret Telegram. Like, Milo Yiannopoulos has a normal Telegram, but then he also has, like, a secret Telegram that, like, he only opens, like, admittance to it every once in a while, and I happened to catch him on a day that he was opening admittance to it. And so I am in Milo Yiannopoulos. That's not the drugs yet. The drugs are not kicking in yet. I swear to God. I am in Milo Yiannopoulos' secret Telegram group. I am. And it is a shit show.
Explain, and I know it's tough when you're trying to do the irony stuff and try to be funny, but then you also have a problem if you could alienate a lot of people. And
Well,
I get you.
if I may quickly interject, is that the issue here mostly isn't the message itself. It's, you know, the misrepresentation of the message. That's the real. I would contend that that's the real issue. You know, the enemies of the movement, you know, and the general establishment is trying to misrepresent, you know, the message, because ultimately they have contempt for it. That's, I think, the main issue with this is.
Well, and I can that is a
oh
fair,
God, hang on. Okay, so this is from Nick Fuentes' Telegram today, and this is from John Miller, who, by the way, I take full credit for getting John Miller banned off of Twitter. Fuck you, John Miller. Like, he's a douche and he deserved to get banned off of Twitter, and I don't feel bad about it at all in any way. But this is in Nick Fuentes' Telegram today. Dave Rubin said the reason he and his gay lover decided to buy test tube babies and rent a woman's womb to simulate childbirth is because he was inspired by Jordan B. Peterson's lectures. If that doesn't tell you something's horribly off about the message Peterson's been selling for years, then I don't know what does. And that is Nick Fuentes with John Miller. Hang on, I will even make it a whole screen. Hang on, I'll make it a whole screen. Nick Fuentes from John Miller, from Nick Fuentes' Telegram group. That is the type of insanity that you are going to find in the bowels of Telegram. Tom J says, "Thank you, America. Milo is America." Yeah, I don't know why Styx would associate with a guy like this. I like Styx a lot. I think Styx is really effing smart. I don't know why he would associate with this jackass. I don't get it at all. But to each their own, I suppose.
Because I know I've been online forever, and one of the things that's always difficult when you spend a lot of time and do, let's say, literally, like I have thousands of hours doing videos, I'm sure Nick has too, it's easy for them to get something sort of out of context, or you're saying it tongue in cheek or whatever, and then they do a got you on that, or even things that are a joke and obviously meant as a joke. And I've run into that, and people have done that to me. So I think you got to balance the whole message. So I think that is a fair critique you have there. Nobody knows. What's your feelings of Catholics living together before marriage? Aren't they committing sin in Catholicism, or has a moral line changed that much? And Thomas, I'll let you answer this because you're Catholic, but I know Catholics, I don't think, are supposed to live together, but in practice, they seem to do so in reality. What's your take on that?
Well, what I must say is that Catholics in practice are Protestants. That's from the outset what I have to say about Catholics in practice. Vatican II is a rabbit hole we can go into, but it's a totally separate conversation. But since, you know, in the 1916s, the Catholic Church, the mainstream conciliar church, is just another offshoot, albeit very big, of Protestantism, unfortunately. And we're just waiting for the one true Pope, for, you know, the new Pius X to come back and just purge the entire church of all these liberals and communists and all of that stuff. But I mean, as far as I know, cohabitation is a sin. The cohabitation is prohibited by the Catholic Church. You know, premarital sex is obviously prohibited. Yeah, I mean, you know, ideally you know, you find a girl, you fall in love with her, you marry her, you have kids out of wedlock, and you never separate. And that is it, really. But yeah, cohabitation, I'm pretty sure, is not looked upon favorably.
So Neve says, like, oh, groovy, he's anti-Vatican II. That explains a lot. You know, listen, like, to be honest with you, I kind of have mixed feelings about Vatican II. I'm not saying that like I completely disapprove of like all of it, but I also think like, I have a very Catholic member of my locals community that is like, she does not like Vatican II at all. She is very opposed to it, and she makes some good points. And I also think it's like, I think that like kind of what they did to nuns was a little bit like, it seems like, okay, this is just my perception of it as like not, I mean, my family was Catholic, but I wasn't raised in the Catholic Church. So I don't really know. I thought I was gonna get smited when I entered church for the first time. But like, it seems like Vatican II really lowered the level of like nuns in the church, and I don't think that that was really fair. I don't know. I asked for your opinions. I don't know. It seems like nuns got screwed over in Vatican II, and that rubs me the wrong way.
By the Catholic Church.
And Robert, Rams, on a racial basis, America South was considered one of the few areas where whites as a mass group had racial solidarity. They also had an honor culture when it came to women. What allowed this in the South over other U.S. regions? Oh, wow, that's a good question, Robert. I think the people that settled in the South were not really from the Puritan New England mindset, so they really did have a different view of things concerning the honor culture and so forth, and we still see that to a degree, which can be
Nuns
used
are a whole
in the
category of
wrong way,
porn
but it
unto
definitely
themselves.
is still there
It's
a
true.
little bit in the South. In fact, they used to have dueling. I don't know if you knew that, Thomas, in the 19th century. If someone offended you, you challenged them to a duel.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Can I challenge people who offend me to a duel? I would like to challenge everyone who offends me to a duel. I pretty much did that, didn't I, with inventing the charity boxing match, which will inevitably become a real thing, because jokes always become real things, apparently.
And there was a sense of that you had to defend your honor. And Jefferson Davis, high up people would challenge if you were insulted in
I'm just going to start challenging
fashion,
everyone on Twitter to a
even
duel.
if you're a senator, you would challenge someone.
I'm just going to start challenging everyone who offends me on Twitter to a duel. I think that nothing at all could go wrong with that plan.
Jefferson Davis did when he was a senator. And I don't know, do they still have that honor culture in Britain or Russia?
They have no honor in Britain. Britain is an honorless country.
And part of it can be used against
us. It's an honorless
what
country.
I mean by honor culture. And I always bring up like Ethan Ralph. He grew up in the poor white South. And that type of culture, if someone offends you, you got to go back twice as hard at them. And it's probably not the most Christian way to do things, but that's kind of the way they are. And do you see that in the UK or Russia at all, or they have a different mindset?
Well, I mean, the only traces of I don't know, so-called honor culture that I can see in the UK are these basically what we call chavs. These lower class, just violent peasants, basically, who are who are the ones that are getting really drunk and really debaucherous, and who are basically forming these gangs and everything. So as far as oh, you've done something to me, I'm gonna go and do something back to you twice as hard. It's really, I think that it can only be seen within these kind of lower marginalized classes.
I do hate Britain forever. Britain can suck a dick.
I mean, that may also be because, once again,
except for Andrew Gold, he's the only good thing to come out of Britain.
Are very beta.
And Magpie. Magpie's cool too.
Violence? What are you talking about?
And any of my supporters who are in Britain are fine.
Never. They're pretty much very.
Okay, really, there's only one jackass in Britain that I hate, and he has sullied the entire country because he accuses me of being a groomer on the internet for making a joke about sex to a 27-year-old man. And he's ruined it for everything. He has ruined it. And Downton Abbey, yeah, Downton Abbey's pretty good. It's true. Stonehenge was rad. Yep. Well, Magpie Magpie's from Canada, but she lives in the UK.
Detached from anything, or try to be detached from anything to do with nature, anything animalistic, anything kind of human or animal. Ultimately, anything natural, they kind of want to stay away from. They just they're just like robots, NPCs, you know, spouting whatever propaganda comes into their minds. So I, you know, don't really see any feral
Like,
aspect.
okay, side note, can we just talk about how sexually repressed you have to be to truly think that someone making a joke about sex to a 27-year-old man is grooming? Can we just talk about how sexually repressed that person is if they think a joke is grooming? I'm just saying, Queen, you gotta work on that. You really do. The sexual repression is not working in your favor.
To them.
That's gonna come back to bite me, but I don't really care. I don't care.
In Russia, it's a bit different. I think it's almost pretty much the same as in the UK, as I've just described, where a lot of the upper classes in Russia are just gangsters who basically got rich very quickly during the 90s, and, you know, after the fall of the Soviet Union. They aren't aristocrats. They are just...
Alex, I have made at least 27 jokes about sex in the time we've been streaming. Do you feel like I have groomed you in that time? I know you don't exactly swing my way, but do you feel like I have offended you? Do you feel like I'm abusing you? Do you feel groomed? I'm just asking. Okay, the drugs might be starting to kick in. I don't think so. It's too early. I literally just ate them like 20 minutes ago.
You know, there are just people who made a buck out of the unfortunate circumstances of other people and the company at large. The country at large. And so there are the same, you know, violent peasants, just rich. And so in that sense,
no, Alex does not feel groomed
amongst the lower classes also exists in
Thank God.
Russia too.
Yeah, and I think that it has a good thing the way it used to be in the South. You combine the civilization with the masculinity. So they wouldn't take shit, but at the same time, they weren't thuggish. And unfortunately, in the United States, we tend to either have like real soy boys that are weak and are always avoid conflict.
Well, that's
or
true.
people that
I
act
agree
very
with that.
thuggish all the time. Whereas I can remember, like my grandfather, he was a very strong man. He worked for the railroads, but he was not thuggish, and there was a
Yes.
difference. And I think we need to bring that back, where either extreme I don't really think works, where you're just always getting in trouble, getting drunk, getting in random fights about everything. That's not a good way to live. Some people live that way. Others are very soy and they're very weak and they won't stand up for themselves. I think we need the infusion of the two, getting back to masculinity. And
well, I mean, if I can quickly here,
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately that one of those extremes, which is the, you know, the soy of, you know, avoiding conflict kind of
Right.
extreme, that is what our society as a whole is living in now. I mean, that is us, right? Think about every single legislation, the way politicians speak, the way people, the way they conduct discourse on social media, just the way people speak. It's very, very kind of feminine, extremely feminine,
passive aggressive, and yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think we see that also in the political situation as well, right? So here is Russia, here is Putin, for example, right? This is the most relevant example, is, you know, makes a decision to conduct a war based on, you know, these principles that he laid out, and he thinks it's going to be ultimately in the interest of his government to conduct this war, right? And so you see this response from the West, the most feminine response I've ever seen, which is to, you know, to say, oh my God, war in the 21st century, violence, people are dying. Oh my God. I mean, this is insane. This is insanity. These people called, you know, all these politicians, they called the war unjustifiable, not unjustified, but unjustifiable. And that is a huge difference. We know from our Christian tradition, from the deposit, you know, left to us by Christianity, that wars can be justified,
Right.
and conflicts can be justified, and in fact, violence can be justified.
This is for Alex, dedicated to Alex.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth.
That's all I'm gonna play. I don't want to get a copyright strike. That's just for Alex.
They called
Back to the
war
show.
unjustifiable, not unjustified, but unjustifiable. And that is a huge difference. We know from our Christian tradition, from the deposit, you know, left to us by Christianity, that wars can be justified. justified, and conflicts can be justified, and in fact,
Viva la New
violence can be
Hampshire!
justified. It's just a matter of whether it is justified or not. But these people are saying it's not even justifiable in in theory. And that is very subtle. You see, these people, as Pius X writes on modernism, he writes, these people, something to the extent, I can't remember verbatim, but he writes, these people, they work very subtly, and in every art, meaning everywhere and very subtly. Changing the meaning of words is one example of that. And just using different words which may seem like they're the same, really, as the words we're used to, but they're ultimately different and are framing the conversation into basically a broken path.
Yeah, well stated. Serge De Novo, again, a Russian friend, great guest. Thank you. Yeah, Thomas is really great. And guys, if you get a chance to subscribe to his channel, as you can tell by listening to him, he's quite intelligent, and I love listening to him. And he's pretty sober minded, so it's great to hear that voice. So thank you, Serge. Big Dan in LA, value is.
Do you guys think I'm gonna get myself into trouble? It's the beer, it's not the weed, I swear. Do you think RAMZPAUL's gay? Or has those tendencies? And this whole thing is manifesting as a result of him, well, pretending to like women or leaning into women if maybe he swings both ways. Because when I hear someone say, I really like listening to you, and you have a British accent, and complimenting his accent and talking about his accent and all that stuff, I kind of wonder. I wonder. I do. I think it's a compensation. John Morgan says no. Alex is thinking. Just T says nah. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I'm just putting it out there. It's midnight. It's July 4th. This is a time when we can ask questions. And again, I do think that people's sexuality can explain a lot about how they show up in the world. It's not a sex thing. It's not like it's not like I want to see what's going on in the bedroom. I don't really care. But I just think that when we think about these things, it can be quite insightful to how people show up in the world. Alex says I think he's got major daddy issues. I think that's probably true. Gene says a lot of religious belief is an attempt at repressing one's inner desires. Gene, I completely agree with you. Yes, I'm not denying that he has had sex with women. Like, gay men can have sex with women too. Like, it all functions the same. Or he could be bi. Like, you can I mean Joshua thinks that like all people are bi. Leather daddy issues. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. Okay. We're gonna finish this up. 20 more minutes. 20 more minutes.
Just money says no feminist. UFO Phenom. $20. Thank you. PSA, help fight the shadow ban and remember to hit the like button. Oh, thank you. I need to get a little bit better about self-promotion, because when I started doing these YouTube videos, I never really gave a damn about any
exactly.
of that. But everyone, you should always tell people to like and subscribe. But I do appreciate when people do that. So thank you, UFO Phenomenon, for reminding me that. Dave said $10. Great conversation, guys. Thank you. This is what I wanted my Tuesday live streams to be, when I get guests and just get some intelligent discussion. It was kind of like, I go back on the kill stream, Fuentes and Destiny. Did you see that debate?
I did, yes.
I thought they were both. I agreed, obviously, with Fuentes on that, but I thought Destiny brought up good points, and I thought it was a back and forth that was pretty interesting. And I really lamented that you really don't see stuff like that in the mainstream anymore, and it's really sad. You don't see mainstream debates in depth. Everything's so shallow now.
Absolutely. I think that he, Destiny, having spawned all these.
Oh god, emphasize feels groomed and gaslit into thinking sexual. Emphasize, I'm sorry. I apologize if you feel abused by this stream here tonight. I apologize. I don't want anyone to feel groomed by this stream tonight. I don't want anyone to feel groomed. Hang on. I gotta get one of those things where I can like hit a button and like play that just for Alex. I have it actually. Victor bought me one. I have it. I just don't know how to use it. Yeah, Emphasize says it's harassment. It's true. It's true. Yep. You're welcome. You're all welcome.
It was a back and forth that was pretty interesting. And I really lamented that you really don't see stuff like that in the mainstream anymore. And it's really sad. You don't see mainstream debates in depth. It's everything's so shallow now.
Absolutely. I think that he, Destiny, having
okay
spawned
in
all
one
these
direction.
just
Emphasize, I knew
crazy,
we were still
disgusting
friends.
leftists, right? I think he even sees that as being unfortunate. I don't think he wished that to happen, where he was kind of booted from the own circle that he has created himself. And I think that as far as leftist goes, I mean, he was well mannered. He was well mannered enough, which is already a pretty big deal for a leftist.
Right.
Right. That's kind of a big deal. Not
It
screaming
is.
and shouting and interrupting.
Okay, Emphasize has made a special request. Please read those three together. All right, let's do it. I feel groomed and gaslit into thinking sexual harassment, if okay, in one direction. Emphasize, for the price of those 3 super chats, you could have probably bought one $5 super chat that could have gotten all those words in. I'm just saying. You gotta think, Emphasize, you gotta think economical.
I mean, Nazi, fascist, or whatever, yeah.
He's intelligent. It's definitely the case that he's intelligent. Ultimately, I think he lost the debate, because if you break down his argument, it hinges on one thing and one thing only, which is that America can do no wrong, and gay can do no wrong, and they're the good guys, and everybody else who opposes them is the bad guys. They get to decide when someone's sovereignty can be infringed upon, right, by coming up with all these weird excuses, right, to protect. And but he had bombs. Well, he actually didn't. But he had weapons. No, he actually didn't.
That's a really good point,
kills his own
Gene.
civilians. He actually
really
didn't.
good point.
And then when somebody else like Russia tries to defend its own geopolitical interests, they say that it's unjustifiable. How ridiculous is that? So I think ultimately he has a bit of a naive outlook on the moral state of America right now.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate you trying, Emphasize. Thank you.
He is a very good speaker, and it is kind of ironic how the left will always eat its own, because I think he pretty much established the left-wing conversation, I believe, on Twitch, which I'm not a part of, but a lot of young people are. And he was like the biggest leftist, and he's pro, gay, atheism, he's pro transgenderism. But he made the mistake of saying, well, a guy that puts on a dress really isn't a woman, and they just attacked him so hard, and he got banned. So it's kind of funny where it is now, right? So now I guess he's the right one.
No, he's a groiper.
Thank you, Jess. Good night. We're wrapping up anyway. I don't think anything more useful is going to come from this conversation. I really don't.
But yeah, I do agree. At least he will sit down and he will discuss things, and he is intelligent. And K-Max, how does Ramsey and Guest compare Jared Taylor to Nick? Different men for different times. Is it a good comparison? I would say K-Max, I think it's a little of an apple and an orange comparison. It's not just the age difference. Jared Taylor was never about a political movement. He's more of an academic that wanted to study IQ and race realities, that type of thing. Jared has always been very careful not to get into political matters. Like he won't discuss really the economy or socialism versus capitalism. And he also avoids the religious question. He's sort of narrow in his focus, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just his expertise. Whereas I think Nick is trying to be broader and have a whole movement. Would you agree with that assessment, Thomas?
Yeah, I think that Taylor is a bit too loppish. I mean, especially by the end, this whole this whole fascism thing and the whole pagan thing, and it's just as you say, he was a bit more of an academic, right? So he had his own ideas, which were ultimately not. I don't think they were politically feasible.
It was suggested,
clear, and that's ultimately what led to Nicolas J. Fuentes branching off, realizing that simply Jared Taylor's platform was just not politically feasible. And yes, Nicolas J. Fuentes is a much more practical man. He politically
Yes, Nick
he knows how
Fuentes is a
social
highly
media
practical
works.
man. Okay.
He ultimately, I
Said
think,
no whatever.
has an intuition for how politics work. So I think he's definitely more practical in that sense.
Yeah, I think, are you confusing Jared Taylor with Richard Spencer? Because Jared was never really about a political
Oh,
platform.
sorry. Yes, I'm confusing the two. Apologies.
Yeah, Jared Taylor is a very Southern gentleman. He went to Yale University, and a really nice man. And he
Yeah,
was
sorry.
never,
I did
yeah,
confuse the two.
Who is
Sorry.
Jared
yeah,
Taylor? I
no,
know
and
the
I
name.
agree
I
with your
can't place
assessment
it though.
comparing
Who is that? Does anyone know?
Spencer with Fuentes.
Mhm.
Of course, Spencer now, he's a big Biden fan. So, how do you like that pivot?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't
Yeah,
really know what that's all about. I mean, he's not
trying to
very
remain
relevant.
relevant, I guess, and
No.
it never works, But yeah.
How can you support Biden even at a personal, humanistic, animalistic level? You know what I mean? Like you just see he's so weak and fragile. There's no emotion in him. There's just what's in him: drugs and neocon propaganda. That's the liberal propaganda that's been
I do
installed by
give,
his handlers.
Right?
yeah, I do give Spencer that because
See?
even left wingers and Democrats don't like Biden. They just see him as like an empty vessel that they can do things through. I don't know how anyone can get excited about Biden. Let's face it, but yeah, so whatever.
Status quo, right?
Yeah, I guess Spencer likes him. Norfin Boz, he's the one guy that likes Biden. Maybe Jill, his wife, likes him too. Don't get me wrong. I think the AF movement has moved the cause forward and done a lot of good things, but it does need more pragmatism, especially on women. We need both sexes on board.
Critical
I think the
dominatrix
United
theory for
platform
the
is a great
win.
idea.
Critical
Would be
dominatrix
cool
theory
to see
every
Rams on Cozy.
single
Yeah, we're
time.
kind of discussing that. That's
Every
kind of the
time.
subject. Well, one of the subjects of this, although it's broader than just American First. But yeah, I do think the American First. I think they need to decide to be what are they going to be? Are they going to be a serious political movement, or they're going to kind of be a bro culture? And they got to work that out. And so, but I mean, I'm sure they'll navigate that. Reginald Mercer, have you read the essay Women's Rights by Robert Dabney? It was written in 1871, and he predicted all the consequences of women's enfranchisement, from masculinization of women to anti-women backlash and the demoralization of the children. I don't think I read that, but I have read some. When I was doing the research about the 19th Amendment, I did read. I read actually again from a woman that wrote why she was opposed to it. So yeah, a lot of the predictions did come true on that. Choke Point, and we met Choke Point at the bowling extravaganza down in Dallas. It was a lot of fun. He's a great guy. And
How was it, by the way? I didn't see a video where was it swatted? I mean, what happened there?
Yeah, I was there, and again, I was there just for the bowling. I wasn't a speaker or anything. It's just originally it was going to be Ethan Ralph was going to get married at the bowling alley.
Who would marry Ethan
I've never
Ralph?
been to a wedding in a bowling alley, so
Seriously,
that was going to be the
who
thing.
would marry Ethan
But
Ralph?
his fiance gave birth before he could get married, so he just went alone. And so we
Ralph
still
is
went
at
to the bowling
sex?
thing, and they had a debate between Destiny and Harrison
I'm so
Smith.
confused.
And I didn't listen to that debate because the audio was kind of bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was swatted, but I just walked out, talked to the cops. They were pretty cool, and it was really no big deal. They just, I don't know, one of these idiots called in a bomb threat or something. And I get some people don't like Ethan Ralph, but he was just trying to have an event. He wasn't harming anyone. And I don't like when people do that sort of thing. So, but I had a good time. I haven't bowled in a while, but I bowled 124, and I was like one of the highest scorers. So that's kind of pathetic. So other people weren't bowling well either. Choke Point though just said Southern honor culture is based on Scot-Irish culture from the Scottish lowlands border regions and from far North England. If people didn't fear you, they'd steal your cattle. Wow.
Yeah.
Melissa,
there is a lot
I'm
of
seeing you in a
Scotch-Irish
whole different way right now. I'm not going to
settlements
display
in the
that on
United
the
States,
screen, but I'm
especially the
seeing you in a
South,
whole
so.
different
Well,
way, and
that's
I just
great
want you to know I'm
Appalachia, right?
acknowledging that.
That's
Yeah, and it did. Sasha's heritage is Scottish, and so is mine. Ramsey is a Scottish name, so yeah. But I have a lot of English too. My grandmother was Jones, which
Yeah,
is very
always
English.
British.
How much
It's
of
always a
how
problem.
much of colonial architecture is there left in the South, if any? Like, the plantations and all the beautiful buildings. I wonder.
I don't know. The part I live in is kind of the Ozarks, so it's kind of like the hillbillies. So it's
Always a
like
problem every
where I
time.
live is too far north. They didn't really have slaves here.
Hmm.
This environment is kind of mountains. You can't grow like cotton where I live, so it was just almost all white area. And
So, side note, YouTube has definitely updated their algorithm or something because like none of my streams get demonetized at the beginning of the stream anymore. I'm completely monetized for everything forever and the streams stay monetized the whole time and I'm not complaining about it. I just think YouTube has obviously updated their algorithm. They changed something. Or maybe I got put on the good list again, who knows, but like something definitely changed.
more of what they called hillbillies. But I mean, they're good people, but I don't know. So I'd like to see the deep south. I'm not in the deep south. I'm kind of in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
K-Max, what did Rams and the guests think about Fuentes' debate with Sticks on China? I know Rams saw it. I think Rams took Sticks' side on that one. I did. I don't think I get what Fuentes was doing. His idea was he doesn't like the global American system. So if China is opposed to it, he will support China. But I don't really think China is our friend. And I don't think we have to choose either one, really. So, um,
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the debate itself, but I've heard many people mention the main points that were given. Ultimately, that Nick Fuentes thinks that Chinese expansion, Chinese development is good because it threatens the structure of the global American empire, which ultimately is the enemy of the American people, right? And all the
right.
other people that it rules. And so whatever destabilizes that structure is good. I mean, there is some truth to that.
See, once I predict that someone is gay, everyone in the chat starts to see it like 5 minutes after I say it. I'm not saying I'm a prophet or anything, but saying you all see it now. You all do. It's just like when I said we needed to defund the schools, and then a year later, everyone else was on board with defunding the schools. I'm just joking about that, by the way. I was not the first person to say defund the schools, but I definitely said defund the schools before Deb fucking Philman. That felt good to get out. Thank you for letting me exercise that on my own stream.
At the same time, if it is destabilized and we are effectively
Someone's going to
made
take that
colonies of
seriously that I
China.
said I
I
was
don't
a
know how much
prophet, by the
better it
way.
would
Someone's
be. I
going to
don't
take
think
that
Chinese are
seriously. It was not a
big fans
serious
of
comment.
Christianity, let us say.
No.
But at the same time, does it even matter at this point? If it was gay, if it was China, I don't think it matters. They both just like Christianity, and they ultimately, both have ends that are contrary to where we probably should be going.
Yeah, it was that one debate. I thought Sticks actually did better than Fuentes. Fuentes, I didn't think was on his game that debate, but I thought Fuentes was really good on his debate against Destiny. So I guess I put it 1-for-1, 1-on-1. So on those debates, and Thomas, has been such an excellent discussion. We've gone a little bit longer than I wanted to, but the discussion was really good. Do you have any final thoughts on how can people support you? And I included your link to your channel so people can subscribe to you.
Oh, I'm going to check out his channel.
What kind of content do you
that's
do
going to
and
happen.
how often?
Yeah, so well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I mean, it's really a big honor, especially considering how small of a channel I am. And thank you for being on the very first video on my channel. I think it was a great conversation that we've had. So if any of you guys haven't heard it yet, go to my channel, and if you want 2 more hours of me and RAMZPAUL talking, then you can find it there. And it was in a format of an interview, so you heard RAMZPAUL talk more than I did. So some of you will like that. So yeah, you can support me basically by subscribing. I'm just trying to produce traditionalist Christian content and good interviews. The second interview I did was with Bishop Williamson of the used to be part of the SSPX, of course. So that was a fascinating discussion. If any of you are into traditional Catholicism, you should like that. And the third interview I did on my channel was with Z-Man. So if any of you are fans of his blog, you will definitely enjoy that content as well. And it's ultimately, I should
Gene,
probably,
this is a
I've got
great
work
idea.
also, so
If
I'm
anyone
kind of
knows a
doing.
dominatrix, please
I'm
introduce
talking
me.
when I'm making
This is a
videos when I
great
think there is
idea.
a topic that needs to be addressed and needs to be discussed, and if I think I can contribute anything that wasn't
Ain't that the
already
truth, Sam?
ultimately contributed, right? So I don't have a schedule. I probably, if I take this more seriously, I probably would have a schedule, obviously, but currently I do not. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas of the guests that you'd like to see on my channel, or any other
I
topics
need to
that you'd
find
like
me
me
a
to
dominatrix to
discuss,
interview.
then yeah, do let me know. Visit me and let me know.
I'm gonna
So
tweet
it's,
that right now. It's gonna
as
be
usual,
taken completely
it's
the
been
wrong
great
way, but
talking
I don't
to
even
you.
care.
And I think that we've covered
You guys can all
really
retweet it.
the most important topic, and I think that a lot of people do misunderstand this
I
topic,
need
do
to
misunderstand
find a
traditionalist outlook on this topic,
dominatrix
and
to
really
interview.
underestimate the value of this conversation. So thank you very much for inviting me
Tweeted.
over and hosting me here.
Well, thank you. And a reminder of people, if you want to hear Thomas on a regular basis, he's part of my Patreon, and we have a roundtable every Friday and Sunday, and he's frequently on there along with a lot of other great people. So it's a lot of fun, kind of build a community. So, and Thomas, thank you so much for being on. And guys, thank you for joining me. And I hope to get more on regular on my schedule once I get the internet in my house. It should be soon. And now that things are warming up,
Yes. Thank
we
you,
just got to
Gene.
get the cable guy to install it. So
Ask and
hopefully
you
that'll be
shall
soon. So guys,
receive.
God bless, and we will talk to you later.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. That was that was interesting. If you want to see what this guy's channel looks like, hang on, I'll show you what this guy's channel looks like before we wrap up. I cannot believe it's almost 1 a.m. That went by so quick. So he's got a frog as an icon, which always bodes well. He's got a couple of things on his channel. He's got a lot of stuff, like he's got stuff about look at the dude. Trump, a reflection on 2016. Oh God, I don't even dare. I don't even dare. So that's what that guy's channel looks like. I don't know. We're not gonna delve into any of this tonight, but I do think it is fascinating that he does have a Pepe as his profile picture, and obviously very telling about that as well. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me on this little impromptu stream where we basically, found out that RAMZPAUL and his fabulous friend hate women and want to make everyone slaves in a theocracy, which will be legislated based on their specific interpretation of Christianity. I would invite friends of Aquinas to come on my channel anytime and put me in my place as the weak woman that I am and become the dominant Russian man in the relationship. Relationship being a chat on my channel, obviously, because, I'm married to a real man, a real Ukrainian man, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, I recommend you become a member of my locals community. And when you become a member of my locals community, you know what you get? You get special, unedited access to my new podcast, Watching the West Wing After Taking the Red Pill. I've actually just uploaded the latest episode, which is episode 2, in local, so that should be available for supporters right now. Now it's 1 a.m., so you probably want to listen to that tomorrow because it's over an hour long. It's like 90 minutes long. I will be editing the version and putting the edited version up on my YouTube and on all podcasting platforms coming up very soon. Also, just as a reminder, we do have some great conversations coming up on my channel this week. On Wednesday, we are having my friend Magister Bill M on, and he's going to describe what it is like to be in the church, a priest in the church of Satan. I think that's going to be a fascinating conversation. On Thursday, we have Dennis Pratt and a whole bunch of people coming on the channel to talk about PorkFest and to do a recap. It's going to be a really fun episode. And on Friday at 2 p.m. on my main channel, a little earlier than usual, but this is an astrologically sound time. At 2 p.m. on my main channel, we are going to have Joshua on, and he is going to talk about what it is like to be a psychic and his process and all that. I think it's going to be a great conversation. We got lots of awesome stuff coming up this week. I will make more content than all of my haters combined. When they're crying and ringing about me on Twitter, I'm actually doing real work to, give people insight into different types of human experiences. But guys, it is almost 1 a.m. and I do feel my edibles starting to kick in. So I'm going to go to bed and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great 4th of July. I hope you're going to a barbecue or at the beach or a parade or something like that, or maybe even just taking it easy and lounging about and binging on content on Netflix or whatever the kids do these days. Guys, take care. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.